He was executed for murdering his own father. The crowd cheers. His fiancée laughs behind her fan. The mentor nods indifferently to the executioner. But the real murderer, standing 3 steps from the block, finishes his rice porridge and, a moment before the blow, whispers in his ear that he was the one who poisoned his father. The murderer's name is Choi Mu-hyeon. The executed man's name is Choi Do-hyeon. They are brothers. 3 weeks ago, the patriarch of the Choi family died in his chambers. Poison was found in the eldest son's room, in Do-hyeon's room. No one checks Mu-hyeon's hands. The Choi family is one of the 4 great houses of the Gyeongmun Empire, and when the head of such a house falls, the culprit is found within a day. The heir is designated as the culprit. Mu-hyeon leans close to his brother's ear and says he personally poisoned their father, that the porridge is especially tasty today, and it's a shame his brother won't get to try it. Then he straightens up and nods to the executioner. Do-hyeon searches the crowd for even a single face that isn't rejoicing. He finds his fiancée, So-hyeon. She's laughing so hard her shoulders are shaking. He spots his mentor, Beck, who for 20 years called him his best student. The old man nods indifferently in time with the executioner's movements. He spots 3 younger students from his school. They're clapping their hands like at a spring performance. A rotten plum hits him squarely on the temple. He doesn't flinch. He can't. His body is bound by chains with suppressors, and his power is completely blocked. Yesterday, he held the rank of Sky 7, 24 years old and already on the verge of a star breakthrough, a rarity for the entire empire. Today, the chains have reduced him to a commoner whose body is worth 3 copper coins. The sword goes all the way through. The head rolls across the stone and comes to rest face up. The eyes are still open. The lips are still moving. Anyone who could read them would see one thing. I will come to each of you through what you cannot lock away. But no one approaches. Mu-hyeon finishes his porridge. He sets the bowl next to his brother's head. He wipes his chopsticks on the white handbook. He announces to the crowd that justice has been served in the Choi household. The body is thrown into the moat behind the wall without a burial. The head is impaled on a pike at the gate. By evening, crows have pecked out the right eye. By nightfall, it begins to rain. And this is where the strangest thing begins. The body lies at the bottom of the moat among dead rats. The heart isn't beating. Blood isn't flowing. But something is burning in the chest between the ribs. A shard the size of a fingernail. 3 months ago, Do-hyeon accidentally swallowed it in the imperial treasury. The elders called the stone a useless shard of an ancient artifact. No one knew it was a fragment of the Mondae Seal, the very one with which the first emperor, 300 years ago, sealed the former god of sleep. In life, the shard was silent. Now that life is gone, it begins. Not with words, with vibration. Do-hyeon's consciousness is sinking, not downward, to the side. As if reality were a film of water and beneath it lay a second layer. Mondae, the bridge of dreams, the place where every night the dreams of all the empire's living beings converge. The aristocrats of Gyeongmun don't even know it exists. For them, sleep is simply rest. For Do-hyeon, it is now his only home. He opens his eyes. No earth, no sky, gray mist and silence. A number flickers at his feet. 0. Rank whisperer, 0. Shadows. Concentrated fear extracted from others' nightmares. Do-hyeon doesn't yet know how to collect them. He doesn't know that the scale stretches from whisperer to the god of sleep. He doesn't know that every grain of someone else's terror will make him stronger. He knows one thing. Somewhere upstairs, Mu-hyeon is drinking tea from his father's cup. Somewhere, So-hyeon is brushing her hair and has already forgotten about the execution. Somewhere, Elder Beck is going to bed, unaware that sleeping is now dangerous. They are all asleep every night, without exception. And Do-hyeon stands where all dreams lead. The fog shimmers. Somewhere within it, a child's voice rings out. A girl of about 10 says he's new here and that no one has been here in a long time. Do-hyeon doesn't answer. He stares at the number 0. Then he lifts his head. Thousands of lights flicker in the fog. Each light is someone's dream, someone's unlocked mind. Do-hyeon takes his first step. 7 names in his head. 7 nods. 7 smiles. 7 pairs of hands clapping over his corpse. He'll start with the one who nodded to the executioner. A girl stands in the fog, not blinking. She looks about 10. Her bare feet are ankle-deep in the gray haze. Her hair is black and too long for a child. It reaches her heels. She looks at Do-hyeon the way one looks at a piece of furniture, without interest, without fear. She says her name is Yeon-hwa and that she has been here for 100 years. Do-hyeon asks where he is. Yeon-hwa says this is Mondae, the Bridge of Dreams, the place where all dreams fall. Do-hyeon asks why he is here. Yeon-hwa shrugs and says that usually the dead don't end up here. Usually they just disappear. But something is glowing inside his chest, and that something won't let him go. Do-hyeon looks down. A shard glimmers between his ribs. A dim green light pulses to a rhythm he no longer has, to the rhythm of a non-existent heart. Yeon-hwa steps closer. She squints. Then she takes 3 steps back at once, and for the first time in 100 years, something other than boredom appears on her face. She says it's a piece of the seal, that very one. Do-hyeon doesn't understand. Yeon-hwa explains briefly and without unnecessary words. 300 years ago, the first emperor sealed away someone very powerful using an artifact. The artifact was called the Mondae Seal. After the sealing, the emperor broke the seal into 7 pieces and hid them in various treasuries. One of the pieces is now inside Do-hyeon. This means that Mondae considers him not a guest, but a master. Do-hyeon is silent. Then he asks one thing. Can he reach the living from here? Yeon-hwa smiles. The first smile in 100 years, cold and thin as a blade. He says it's not just that he can. He says it's the only reason Mondae exists. Every fire in the fog is someone's dream. Anyone sleeping within Do-hyeon's range is as open as a house with its door wide open. Enter, build whatever you want inside. And most importantly, wounds inflicted in a dream are transferred to the sleeper's body upon waking. Not an illusion, not a metaphor. A severed hand in a dream is a severed hand in reality. And a bullet motivation won't help because the damage passes through the soul, bypassing the core. Do-hyeon asks no more questions. He turns toward the fires. There are thousands of them, tens of thousands. Each fire pulses to its own rhythm. Yeon-hwa says he is still weak. 0 shadows. Whisperer 0. At this rank, he can only enter the dreams of those who saw his face in life or heard his name in the context of an execution. The radius is small, but sufficient, because everyone standing in the square saw his face while he was alive, and his name was heard by all of Chongyun. Do-hyeon searches among the flames. Each flame bears an imprint, like a scent, like a signature. He sifts through them one by one, discards the unfamiliar ones, passes by those he doesn't need, stops. This one. It pulses evenly and slowly. The dream is deep, calm. The sleep of a man with a clear conscience. Elder Beck, mentor, teacher. For 20 years, he fed Do-hyeon techniques and corrected his stance. For 20 years, he called him his best student. In the square, he stood in the 3rd row and nodded to the executioner with the face of a man approving the lunch menu. Do-hyeon touches the flame and falls inside. The garden. Elder Beck sits at a stone table under a plum tree. Before him are a teapot and 2 cups. Chrysanthemums bloom all around, and the air smells of autumn. In his dreams, Baek is always here. This is his favorite place. For 30 years, he meditated in this garden in the mornings. Now, the garden has become his dream. Do-hyeon takes a step. The grass crunches. Baek raises his head. He looks. He doesn't recognize him. A second later, he does. The cup in the old man's hand clinks against the saucer. Do-hyeon sits down across from him. He takes a second cup, pours tea, places a severed head on the table between them. His own head, a perfect replica. The same open eyes, the same mouth moving silently. The right eye has been pecked out by crows. Do-hyeon takes a sip of tea and asks the teacher why the tea has gone cold. Pour some fresh tea. Baek jumps up. His Hanryok appears here as a pillar of fire surrounding his body. Star 4, 43,200 units. For the Empire, this is the rank of an army wing commander. For this garden, he is a supreme being. Baek strikes. The heavenly rift technique. A palm imbued with power capable of splitting a fortress wall. The blow passes through Do-hyeon as if through smoke. Baek's hand passes right through him, and the old man loses his balance. He falls to one knee. Do-hyeon didn't even flinch. In Mondae, the master of the space is invulnerable to the guest techniques. Baek doesn't know this. No one in the Empire knows, because no one in the Empire knows that Mondae exists. Baek strikes again, and again, and again. 23 techniques in a minute, all pass right through him. Do-hyeon sits and drinks tea. He waits for the teacher to run out of steam. Baek stops. His chest heaves. Sweat trickles down his forehead. He looks at Do-hyeon and for the first time in 20 years of teaching, doesn't know what to do. He asks what this is. What's going on here? Do-hyeon sets down his cup. He takes out a knife, an ordinary kitchen knife, the kind used to peel radishes for porridge. He says this is a lesson, the last one. Baek backs away. His back presses against the plum tree. The tree won't let him pass, because the trees in this garden now obey Do-hyeon, not Baek. Do-hyeon works for 7 subjective hours. In the real world, 20 minutes pass. He takes his time, an executioner in no hurry. He starts with the left hand. Baek screams. The old man's voice breaks into a shriek, and it's strange to hear coming from a star-rank cultivator. Do-hyeon cuts tendon after tendon. He doesn't chop, he cuts, so that he can feel every fiber. An hour later, he pulls the left arm off at the elbow like a sleeve, sets it aside. Baek is no longer screaming, he's wheezing. Do-hyeon asks the teacher if he remembers saying 20 years ago that a true cultivator must endure any pain. Baek wheezes. Do-hyeon says we'll test it. He goes for the eyes. The Hanryok pillar around Baek dims with every passing hour. 43,200, 31,000, 22, 14. Each wound pierces the soul and peels it away layer by layer. 20 years of cultivation peel away like skin. Do-hyeon feels Baek's power seeping out of the wounds and being absorbed into the gray mist of Mondae. For now, he cannot gather Hanryok directly. That is the Nightmare Walker's technique, and he is still a whisperer. But the shadows, he gathers the shadows. Every second of Baek's terror crystallizes into black sparks and settles on Do-hyeon. The counter at his feet creeps upward. 12, 47, 130, 289, 514, 7 subjective hours, 2 eyes, a tongue, a left hand. When Do-hyeon finishes, Baek lies in his own garden, alive. His mouth is open, but his tongue is gone. His eye sockets are empty. His left arm is missing from the elbow down. The Hanryok pillar around him is barely visible. It flickers dimly like a candle in the wind. Do-hyeon stands up. The counter registers. 847 shadows. Rank Nightmare 1. The threshold has been crossed. Yeonhwa waits for him outside the dream. She looks at the number. She doesn't smile. but she nods. She says it's not bad for a first time. Do-hyeon doesn't answer. Morning. Elder Beck's estate. A servant named Bok enters the bedroom with a breakfast tray. He sees the teacher in bed. He drops the tray. Porcelain shatters across the floor. Beck lies on his back. Both eyes have oozed onto the pillow. His tongue lies on his chest. His left arm is missing up to the elbow. The sheet is soaked with something that doesn't look like blood. It looks more like water, murky gray water. Beck is breathing. His chest rises and falls. He's alive. The servant Bok screams. The doctors rush over. The chief physician takes out a Honryuk measuring plate. He places it against Bok's core. A number appears on the plate. Earth 1, 340. The physician checks 3 times. The device doesn't lie. Yesterday it was 43,200. Star 4. Today, 340. Earth 1. 20 years of cultivation wiped out in a single night. The physician sits on the floor next to the tray and remains silent. An hour later, the news reaches the Cho family palace. A servant reports to the new patriarch, Cho Mu-hyeon. Mu-hyeon listens. He holds a cup of tea. When the servant finishes, the cup slips from his fingers and shatters on the floor. Mu-hyeon looks at the shards. He is silent. Then he asks when exactly it happened. The servant says it was at night, in his sleep. Mu-hyeon closes his eyes. He opens them. There is no longer any gentleness in them, only calculation. He knows who it is. Mu-hyeon hasn't slept for 2 nights. He sits at the blackwood desk in his father's study, sifting through the reports. 3 physicians examined Beck. All 3 wrote the same thing. The injuries were not caused by poison, not by technology, not by a weapon. The wounds came from within, as if the body had torn itself apart. The Honryuk plate reads Earth -1, and the number keeps dropping. 340 in the morning, 312 by noon, 280 by nightfall. Beck is wasting away. Mu-hyeon sets aside the reports and folds his hands. He is 21 years old. 3 weeks ago, he poisoned his father. 2 weeks ago, he planted poison in his brother's room. A week ago, he executed Do-hyeon in the square. Everything went according to plan. The plan was simple. Eliminate his father, eliminate his older brother, take the patriarch's seat, strengthen the alliance with the third prince, Lee-han. In 10 years, raise the Cho family to a level where even the emperor would consult with Mu-hyeon before sneezing. The plan was perfect. The dead do not seek revenge. But Do-hyeon turned out to be the exception. Mu-hyeon doesn't know how. He doesn't know the mechanics. He doesn't know about Mondae. But he knows his brother. 24 years under the same roof. He saw Do-hyeon train 12 hours a day. He saw him climb to Sky 7 by 24. He saw a stubbornness that wouldn't break under any pressure. If there's even the slightest chance that Do-hyeon has returned, then Do-hyeon has returned. Mu-hyeon stands up. He leaves the study. He walks down the palace's night corridor. At the end of the corridor is the room he locked on the day of the execution. Do-hyeon's room. Mu-hyeon opens the door. He enters. Everything is in its place. Calligraphy brushes, scrolls with techniques, a training sword on the wall, half-drunk tea on the table. Next to the tea is a note that Do-hyeon wrote that morning when he was arrested. Unfinished. The first sentence. Mu-hyeon, I want to talk to you about... About what? Mu-hyeon never found out. He stands over the table. Then he picks up the note, folds it, hides it in his sleeve, returns to his office, summons a messenger, orders him to buy up all the supplies of sleepless tears in the capital, every last bottle. Sleepless tears is a potion that suppresses the sleep phase. A person sleeps but doesn't dream. Side effect: the potion slowly destroys the cultivator's core. After 6 months of continuous use, the rank drops by 1 level. After 2 years, the core cracks. Mu-hyeon knows this. He doesn't care. because if Do-hyeon comes through dreams, he won't come without them. Second order, find the sect of the sleepless eye, monks who practice lifelong wakefulness. Hire the 20 best. The task, stand around Mu-hyeon's bedroom and wake him every 6 minutes with a steel needle in the neck. 6 minutes is the time it takes for a person to fall into a deep sleep. Without deep sleep, there are no dreams. Without dreams, there is no entry into Mondae. Third order, public. Announce that Elder Beck has fallen victim to an unknown illness. No investigation, no questions, close the matter. Mu-hyeon sits back down at the table. He pours tea. His hand does not tremble. He swore to himself that he would only be afraid when it helps. It won't help now. Speed will help now. The morning of the third day. The capital of Chongyun goes about its business as usual. Rice and cloth are sold in the markets. Children run through the streets. Cultivators train in the courtyards of the great houses. No one except Beck's servants and Mu-hyeon's people knows what happened. Not yet, anyway. Do-hyeon stands in Mondae and looks at his counter. 847 shadows. Nightmare 1. Yeonhwa sits on the edge of someone else's dream, dangling her feet. She explains what the new rank means. At the Whisperer level, he could enter single dreams and create simple illusions. At the Nightmare Walker level, 3 things open up. First, architecture. Now he can not only enter someone else's dream, but completely rebuild it. Change the landscape, change the physics, change time. At the Whisperer rank, 1 hour in a dream equaled 1 second in reality. At the Nightmare Walker rank, the ratio shifts. 2 hours to 1 second. More time to work. Second, range. Now he has access not only to those who have seen his face, but also to those who have heard of him from those who have seen him. Those who knew those who knew. The circle is expanding. Third, the theft of Onryuk. This is the most important thing. On peak, he felt the old man's power seeping out through his wounds, but couldn't gather it. It faded into the mist, wasted. Now he can intercept that flow and absorb it. Another spiritual power becomes his. The victim loses their rank forever, irrevocably. Cultivation won't restore what was taken through Mondae because the damage is at the soul level, not the body. Do-hyeon listens. He is silent. Then he asks what will happen if there isn't a single sleeper within a kilometer radius connected to his death. Yeonhwa stops fidgeting with her feet. She says that in that case, he will begin to dissipate. A quiet mist, 10% of the shadows per hour. Not death, worse. Eternal observation without the ability to act. Do-hyeon nods, so he has to strike quickly, so every night counts. He turns toward the lights. He searches. He needs more than just the next victim. He needs the one who will bring the maximum amount of shadows and information at the same time. So Ayeon, his ex-fiancée, the daughter of the head of the So household, Sky Rank 3, honor points, 12,400. Not the strongest, but her dream burns brighter than the rest, pulsing with pink and gold, the dream of a happy person, the dream of someone who had a good dinner and went to bed with a clear conscience. Do-hyeon remembers her laughter in the square, the So family fan at her mouth, shoulders shaking with laughter. They had been engaged for 4 years. He taught her the art of Honryuk because her own mentor was talentless. He gave her combs. He wrote poems that she criticized for their lack of rhythm. For 4 years, he thought she was the person to whom he would give his life. It turned out she preferred to give his life to someone else. Yeonhwa looks at him, asks if he's ready. Do-hyeon doesn't answer, touches the pink fire, falls through. Night 4. So-ayeon's dream. Do-hyeon is inside. So-ayeon dreams of a wedding, her own. Red ribbons on the columns. Musicians with drums and flutes. 300 guests in formal hanboks. The groom stands at the altar, and it is not Do-hyeon. It is Mu-hyeon, in white, with a gentle smile. Ayeon walks down the path of petals, and in her dream, everything is perfect. The sun shines around her like a pillar of soft gold. Sky 3, 12,400 units. For the daughter of the great house at 22, that's a good rank. Not outstanding, good. Do-hyeon stands among the guests. No one sees him. At the rank of Nightmare Walker, he can remain invisible within someone else's dream for as long as he wants. He watches. Ayeon approaches the altar. Mu-hyeon takes her by the hand. She smiles, and Do-hyeon recognizes that smile. She smiled at him exactly the same way, with the same muscles, the same curve of her lips. Do-hyeon makes his first move. He doesn't attack. He alters the architecture. The music falls silent. The petals on the path turn black, one by one. The guests turn their heads, and each one has Do-hyeon's face. 300 faces. 300 pairs of eyes without a right pupil. 300 mouths moving without sound. Ayeon freezes. She pulls her hand away from Mu-hyeon. Mu-hyeon crumbles to ashes. The altar cracks. The red ribbons turn red from something else. Ayeon turns toward the exit. There is no exit. Walls. Stone walls with wet spots. The ceiling lowers. The light fades. 300 guests with Do-hyeon's face take a step forward simultaneously. Ayeon screams and strikes. The water mirror technique. The So family's signature technique. A wave of Hunryuk radiates out from her in all directions. It would have crushed the insides of any Sky 3 rank opponent. The wave passes through the 300 figures without touching a single one. Ayeon strikes again, and again, harder each time, right through them each time. A pillar of Hunryuk flickers around her. 12,400, 12,100, 11,800. She wastes her power on empty space and doesn't understand why nothing is working. The 300 figures stop. They part. Standing in the passageway is Do-hyeon, the real one, dressed as the heir to the Cho family, without his right eye, a kitchen knife in his hand. Ayeon recognizes him. Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. She says it's impossible, that he's dead, that she saw his head cut off. Do-hyeon nods, says she remembers correctly. He takes 3 steps toward her. Ayeon backs up against the wall. She asks what he wants. Her voice trembles. Her whole body trembles. The Hunryuk pillar is no longer gold, but pale yellow, and it continues to fade. Do-hyeon stops. He says he has a question. One, a simple one. Why was she laughing? Ayeon is silent. Do-hyeon waits. 1 second. 2. 10. 30. Ayeon starts speaking quickly and incoherently. She says that Mu-hyeon promised her a position, that her father told her to support the new patriarch, that she had no choice, that she didn't want to, that it's all politics. Do-hyeon listens. Then he says the question wasn't about motives. The question was about the laughter. She could have stood in silence. She could have turned away. She could have not come. She came. She stood in the front row. She took out her fan, and she laughed. At the man who had spent 4 years teaching her the Hunryuk technique because her own mentor was talentless. At the man who gave her combs and wrote poems. She laughed because she was having fun. Ayeon cries. Tears stream down her cheeks and fall onto the stone floor of the hall. Do-hyeon looks at the tears. Then he puts the knife away. Ayeon flinches. Hope flickers in her eyes. Do-hyeon isn't going to cut her. Not like Baek. Baek was a mentor. A teacher's betrayal is cold. Ayeon was a bride. A bride's betrayal is different. He raises his hand. The architecture of the dream changes again. The walls part. Around them is Chongnyeon Square, the scaffold, the crowd, everything is just like that day. But it is not Do-hyeon standing on the scaffold. Woo-hyeon stands on the scaffold. The crowd roars. 300 faces, all with Woo-hyeon's face, and they're all laughing. Fans at every mouth, shoulders shaking. Woo-hyeon screams. Do-hyeon steps right up close. He places his palm on her face. His fingers rest on her forehead and cheeks, a technique he's just discovered. Nameless, unauthorized, Mondae's pure will passed through touch. Under his fingers, Woo-hyeon's skin begins to move, not to tear, to move. Like clay. Her features blur, her nose smooths out, her lips stretch into a straight line. Her eyes sink deeper, her eyebrows vanish. No blood, no wounds, just a face ceasing to be a face, turning into a blank surface. The skin is there, the organs are there, but the features are gone. A smooth, pale mask from the hairline to the chin. Woo-hyeon stops screaming because there is no mouth anymore. The Honryok pillar collapses. 12,400 crumbles like a sandcastle. Do-hyeon feels the flow. This time, he's ready. He intercepts it. The technique of stealing Honryok. Woo-hyeon's power flows through his palm and is absorbed into the shard of the seal between his ribs. It burns. It sears. But he doesn't pull his hand away. He holds it until the counter stops. Shadows. 847 plus 1,253. Total, 2,100. Nightmare 3 rank, 12,400. Honryok absorbed. Woo-hyeon stands before him, faceless and powerless, alive. Do-hyeon pulls his hand away, turns around, walks off into the fog. Morning, the So family estate. A maid enters the mistress's bedroom with hot water for washing. She drops the basin. Water spills across the floor. So Woo-hyeon sits on the bed. She has no face. Smooth, pale skin from her hairline to her chin. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. She breathes through 2 tiny holes where her nostrils should be. The physician arrives in half an hour. He measures the Honryok. The dial reads 0. Sky 3 has turned into a void overnight. The doctor measures 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 0. He stands up and leaves the room. Standing in the hallway is the head of the So household, the great elder So Chong-gil, Woo-hyeon's father, Soon one of the empire's strongest cultivators. He looks at the doctor. The doctor shakes his head. So Chong-gil enters the room. He sees his daughter. He stands motionless for 30 seconds. Then he turns and leaves. He doesn't say a word. The servants hear only the door frame cracking under his fist. An hour later, the news reaches Mu-hyeon. He is sitting in his study surrounded by 4 monks of the sleepless eye. He didn't have time to hire 20, only 4 so far. They arrived this morning, each with a shaved head and a steel needle on a chain. Mu-hyeon listens to the report. His expression doesn't change. He knew there would be a second strike. He didn't know who. Now he knows. Do-hyeon goes through the list. Everyone who stood in the square and celebrated the execution. First, Baek, then Woo-hyeon. Next will be the 3 younger brothers, then the rest. And at the end of the list, Mu-hyeon himself. Mu-hyeon picks up a brush. He writes a note, 3 lines. He seals it. He hands it to the messenger. The address, the chambers of 3rd Prince Lee-han in the Imperial Palace. Mu-hyeon realizes he needs help. Not monks, not potions. Help from someone who understands dreams. And Prince Lee-han is the only one in the Empire who could know this, because the prince heads the Black Lotus, a secret agency that, among other things, has been hunting for fragments of the Mondae Seal for 300 years. They know that Mondae exists. They know that a shard disappeared from the treasury 3 months ago. They just haven't connected the dots yet. Mu-hyun's note will connect them for him. In Mondae, Do-hyun stands and stares at his counter. 2,100 shadows. Nightmare 3. Yeon-hwa is nearby. She is silent. Then she says one thing. She says he works too cleanly, that it's bad. Do-hyun looks at her. Yeon-hwa explains. Clean means quiet. Quiet means only the victim knows what happened. The rest blame it on illness, on a curse, on chance. He needs everyone to know. He needs everyone to be afraid, because fear is the shadows, and the shadows are status. Do-hyun is silent. Then he nods. Yeon-hwa is right. An executioner who works in the dark scares one person. An executioner who works in the light terrifies thousands. The following night, he waits with a new strategy. 2 names, not 1. Night 7. Do-hyun stands in Myeongdong, holding 2 flames before him. The left one pulses blue. The right one, green. The blue one is Han Chun-ho. The right one is Yoon Tae-suk. 2 of the 3 younger brothers from school, the very ones who were applauding in the square. The third, Kwon So-hyun, is sleeping somewhere far beyond the radius. He left the capital the day after the execution. Either he got scared or he received an order. Do-hyun will find him later. Right now, there are 2. Yeon-hwa explained that at Nightmare 3 rank, you can enter 2 dreams at the same time if the sleepers are in the same building. Han Chun-ho and Yoon Tae-suk live in the dormitory of Che School, right next door to each other. Perfect! Do-hyun touches both lights at the same time. The world jerks. It splits in 2. He feels like a person who has been torn in half, with each half remaining conscious. The left half enters Han Chun-ho's dream. The right half enters Yoon Tae-suk's dream. Han Chun-ho's dream. The school's training yard. Chun-ho stands with a sword in his hands, practicing his strikes. Earth 8, 7,300 Hanryuk. Not bad for a 22-year-old student from a poor family. Do-hyun remembers this guy. He came to the school at 14 and didn't know how to hold chopsticks. Do-hyun taught him to eat like an aristocrat, taught him to read, taught him the first 3 forms of the basic sword. Chun-ho called him his older brother and swore allegiance until his last breath. In the square, he clapped louder than anyone else. Do-hyun appears in the center of the courtyard. He doesn't hide. He stands in the open. Chun-ho drops his sword. He takes a step back. 2, 3. He presses his back against a pillar. Do-hyun approaches and picks up the fallen sword. He turns it over in his hands. A familiar weight. He says that Chun-ho still holds the hilt of his left hand too low. He pointed out this flaw to him 5 years ago. He never corrected it. Chun-ho trembles. He says it's a dream, just a dream. He says that Do-hyun is dead and the dead don't come. Do-hyun nods. He says that the dead don't come, the dead wait. Then he takes Chun-ho by the right hand. He twists his wrist. Chun-ho screams. The sound is muffled as if through a wall. It's a dream, and the scream won't wake the body here. The body keeps sleeping. The body gets injured. Do-hyun breaks his right arm in 3 places. The elbow, the forearm, the wrist. Each break with a crack. Each crack is the shadows. The counter creeps up. 200, 300, 400. Chun-ho howls. Do-hyun asks why he clapped. Chun-ho wheezes that everyone was clapping, that he couldn't stand there in silence, that they would have noticed him. Do-hyun nods. He understands. He doesn't forgive. He breaks his left arm. At the same time, the right half of Do-hyun is working in Yoon Tae-suk's dream. Tae-suk's dream is a dive bar, cheap rice moonshine, and girls. Tae-suk has always been like this. Earth 6, 5,100 Hanryuk. Do-hyun appears behind the bar. He pours himself some moonshine. Tae-suk doesn't notice him for the first 30 seconds. Then he turns his head. The glass in Tae-suk's hand shatters. Do-hyun takes a sip. He says the moonshine here is lousy even by dream standards. Tae-suk jumps up. He strikes with his fist, the stone strike technique. A basic move, but on Earth 6, it's powerful enough to punch through a wall. The fist passes right through Do-hyeon. Tae-sok loses his balance. He falls. Do-hyeon sets down his glass. He steps on Tae-sok's right leg. He presses down. Bone cracks. Tae-sok screams. Do-hyeon presses harder. The ankle folds inward. The foot bends at an unnatural angle. Shadows. 300, 400, 500. The work proceeds in 2 dreams simultaneously. Do-hyeon feels the split like a headache, dull and throbbing, but bearable. In Chun-ho's dream, he breaks both legs below the knee. In Tae-sok's dream, he knocks out all his teeth one by one. In Chun-ho's dream, he carves a character on his back, Betray. In Tae-sok's dream, he cuts off both ears. The theft of Honryuk continues uninterrupted through every wound. 7,300 from Chun-ho, 5,100 from Tae-seok, a total of 12,400 Honryuk. The same amount he took from Ayeon, but this time he doesn't work quietly. Yeonhwa told him to work loudly. Do-hyeon finishes with both of them and does one thing before leaving. He changes the architecture of both dreams simultaneously. Chun-ho's training yard and Tae-sok's tavern merge into a single space. Chungyeon Square, the scaffold, that very one. And around the scaffold, Do-hyeon sets up mirrors, hundreds of mirrors. Each one reflects the execution. In every reflection, the crowd applauds. And in every reflection, the faces in the crowd belong to Chun-ho and Tae-sok. They see themselves, applauding, laughing, joyful. And next to each reflection stands a number, their Honryuk. Before, after, 7,300, 0. 5,100, 0. This isn't for them. It's for those who will investigate, those who will try to peer into the remnants of their dreams. A calling card. Morning. The barracks of Che School. 2 students find their comrades in the dorms. Han Chun-ho lies on the floor. Both arms are broken in 3 places each. Both legs are twisted below the knee. A bloody hieroglyph shows through the fabric on his back. Traitor! Yoon Tae-suk lies on the bed. No ears, no teeth. His right foot is twisted inward at a right angle. Both are measured for Honryuk, 0 and 0. Earth 8 and Earth 6 have been erased to nothingness. The students stand in the hallway and remain silent. The school's senior instructor rushes in 10 minutes later. He examines both of them. He turns pale. He steps out into the hallway, leans against the wall, whispers that in 30 years of teaching he has never seen anything like this, that the wounds are impossible, that the fractures run from the inside as if the bones had broken themselves, that the character on Chun-ho's back is carved at the level of muscle fibers, and no surgeon is capable of doing it with such precision. By noon, the news spreads beyond the school walls. This time, Mu-hyeon cannot sweep it under the rug. 2 people maimed in a single night in the same building. This is not a disease. It is not a curse. It is a hunt. Rumors spread through the capital like water through a crack in stone. Some whisper that Choi Do-hyeon has returned. Some laugh and say the dead do not return. Some do not laugh. Imperial physician Yoon Sang-hee receives his 3rd report this week regarding abnormal losses of Honryuk. 3 cases. Baek, Ayeon, now 2 at once. Total loss of cultivation potential over 7 days. Star 4+, Sky 3+, Earth 8+, Earth 6. In total, that's more than the entire Cho School produces in 5 years. Yoon Sang-hee sits in her office at the palace, rereading the numbers. Her fingers tremble. She has been a healer for 30 years. She has seen Honryuk losses from wounds, from poisonings, from cursed artifacts, but a loss down to 0 in a single night. No signs of external influence, no poison, no curse. This is beyond anything she knows. She picks up a brush and begins drafting a report to the emperor. Her hands tremble and the first character comes out crooked. In Monday, Do-hyeon stands and counts. Shadows. 847 plus 1,253 plus 800. Total 2,900. No, he counts again. He took more than he expected from Chunho and Taesuk. The double entry boosted the haul. Total count, 4,600 shadows. Nightmare 5, rank. A leap in a single night. Yanhua looks at the number. For the first time in 100 years, something like respect in her eyes. She says that at Nightmare 5, his next ability unlocks. Territory binding. Fragments of others' dreams do not fully regenerate after he leaves. They become his. Permanent holdings in Mondae. Small ones for now. A room, a courtyard, but his. A place where he is stronger than anywhere else. A place from which he cannot be dragged away. Do-hyeon nods. Then he turns toward the distant fire of Mu-hyeon. Dim. Almost invisible. His brother barely sleeps. The monks wake him every 6 minutes. Do-hyeon can't reach him. Not yet. But the list isn't finished. 3 out of 7 are marked. Baek, Ayeon, Chunho. Taesuk makes 4. 3 remain. Kwon So-hyun, who fled the capital, and 2 others whose names Do-hyeon repeats every night. Cold, steady, like an executioner keeping a tally. And outside the list, Mu-hyeon waits. Mu-hyeon, who has just received a reply from the third prince, Lee-han. The messenger has returned with a sealed scroll. Mu-hyeon unrolls it. 3 lines. I know. Wait. I'm coming. Prince Lee-han enters the Choi family palace without an entourage, alone, in a simple gray hanbok without crests. The guards at the gate do not recognize him, and this is intentional. The third prince of the imperial line does not like it when he is recognized. Mu-hyeon meets him in his father's study. Monks of the sleepless eye stand in the corners, 4 of them, shaven heads, steel needles on chains sway at their hips. Lee-han surveys them with a single glance and sits down across from Mu-hyeon. He is 32, rank Sun 2, a distant cousin of the emperor and head of the secret Black Lotus Bureau, an organization that, among other things, has been hunting for fragments of the Mondae Seal for 300 years. Lee-han knows that Mondae exists. He knows that a shard disappeared from the treasury 3 months ago. He knows that this shard fell into the hands of the heir to the Choi family. He didn't know that the heir would be able to use it after his death. Now he knows. Mu-hyeon begins to speak. Lee-han raises his hand. He says there's no need. He's already read everything. Black Lotus agents have taken statements from Doctors Baek and Ah-young. They've taken the bodies of Chunho and Taesuk for examination. The results are unequivocal. The injuries pass through the soul. They bypass the core. They penetrate from a layer that lies beyond reality. From Mondae. Lee-han says this word aloud, and Mu-hyeon flinches. Not because he knows what it means, because the prince's tone changes. It softens. And when Lee-han speaks softly, it means he is frightened. Lee-han explains briefly. Mondae is the bridge of dreams, the second layer of existence. 300 years ago, the first emperor sealed something dangerous there using an artifact. The artifact was broken into 7 pieces. 1 piece disappeared from the treasury 3 months ago. That piece is now inside the dead Choi Do-hyeon and gives him power over dreams. Mu-hyeon listens. His expression doesn't change. He asks how to stop this. Lee-han says there are 3 ways. The first, don't sleep. The tears of insomnia and the monks. Mu-hyeon nods. He's already doing that. Lee-han says that's not enough. Do-hyeon won't stop at Mu-hyeon. He'll go after everyone connected to the execution, all over the capital. It's impossible to stop an entire city from sleeping. The second way, find and destroy Do-hyeon's body. The shard is bound to the body. No body, no anchor. Mu-hyeon says the body was thrown into the moat. Lee-han asks if they've checked. Mu-hyeon is silent. They haven't checked. Lee-han sends an agent. 2 hours later, the agent returns. There is no moat. There is no body. The moat has been filled with earth, and grass is growing where the corpse lay. Not young grass, old grass, as if there had never been a moat there. Lee-han listens and nods. He says that Mondae pulled the body to his side. The anchor has gone to the other side. It can no longer be destroyed from the real world. A third way. Enter Mondae ourselves and kill Do-hyeon there. Mu-hyeon asks how to enter. Lee-han smiles. He says the Black Lotus has its methods. They always have. The sect of the Sleepless Eye isn't just monks who don't sleep. They don't sleep because they know how to walk the border of Mondae and know what lives there. They've seen it. That's exactly why they prefer to stay awake. Lee-han says he'll send his people, not monks, specialists. Black Lotus agents trained to enter Mondae as guests, not masters, guests. They are weaker than the master, but we can send 10, 20, 50, overwhelm them with numbers. Mu-hyeon asks when. Lee-han says it will take 5 days to prepare. Mu-hyeon says that in 5 days, Do-hyeon will destroy 4 more. Lee-han shrugs. He says those are acceptable losses. Mu-hyeon clenches his fist under the table. Acceptable losses are his people, his allies, his wall between himself and his dead brother. But he remains silent. Because Prince Lee-han is Sun 2, and no Sky 9 will dare argue with Sun -2 is not something any Sky 9 would dare do if they want to see the next dawn. Lee-han stands up. He leaves. He stops at the door. He says one more thing. He says he has a gift for Mu-hyeon. Not now, later, when things get really bad. It's called the Crown of No Sleep, an artifact that completely blocks the wearer's dreams. No power in Mondae can penetrate it, but there's a price. The crown burns out the mind in 30 days. Mu-hyeon asks what burns out the mind means. Lee-han says that's exactly what it means. Insanity, complete, irreversible. Mu-hyeon is silent for 3 seconds. Then he says he'll remember. Lee-han leaves. Mu-hyeon sits alone. Monks stand in the corners. The needles sway. It's getting dark outside the window. The 8th night. Do-hyeon in Myeongdae is choosing the next target, not from the list of 7. Yeon-hwa suggested someone else. She said that among the flames there is one that burns dimly and fearfully. A second-rank aristocrat from the Choi family's retinue named Cho Gwan. Earth 9. 8,600 Hongyuk. He wasn't standing in the square, but he was processing the execution documents, signing the warrant, affixing the Choi family seal beneath the sentence. Without his signature, the execution would have been illegal. A formality. Paperwork. But Do-hyeon remembers every formality. Yeon-hwa says this aristocrat is interesting for another reason. He knows the locations of the Choi family's secret vaults. He knows the codes and seals. If you enter his dream, you can take more than just the shadows and the Hongyuk. You can take memories, fragments of the victim's memory that remain in Mondae after work, like shards of a broken mirror. Each shard is a piece of information. Do-hyeon enters Cho Kwan's dream. The bureaucrat's dream is dreary. An office, stacks of papers, ink and brushes. Cho Gwan sits at a desk, sorting through documents. He doesn't notice Do-hyeon until he sits down across from him and places his hands on the table. Cho Gwan looks up. He turns pale. Do-hyeon says he needs one thing: the location of Mu-hyeon's private quarters, the security system, the monk's shift schedule. Cho Gwan trembles. He says he doesn't know. Do-hyeon grabs his right pinky and breaks it. Cho Gwan screams. Do-hyeon asks again. Cho Gwan still says he doesn't know. Do-hyeon breaks his ring finger. Middle, index, thumb. All 5 fingers of his right hand are broken. Cho Kwan sobs and starts talking. He tells everything. The layout of the quarters. 3 corridors with traps. 2 underground passages. The monk's schedule. 4 are here now. The remaining 16 will arrive in 3 days. Personal supply of sleepless tears. 17 vials in the safe behind the 3rd wall. Do-hyeon listens and memorizes. Then he takes the Honryuk. 8,600. The counter clicks. Shadows. 4,600 plus 1,200. 5,800. No, more. Double duty. Interrogation and theft. 6,400. Do-hyeon wakes from his dream. Fragments of Cho-gwan's memory float around him like fireflies. He catches one. He sees a room. Mu-hyeon at a table. A man in a gray hanbok stands nearby. His face is blurred. Do-hyun can't make out the details, but he hears a word. Mondae. Someone close to Mu-hyeon knows about Mondae. Someone has come to help. Do-hyun clenches his fist. The memory fragment shatters. It's not clear enough. Cho-gwan is too small a fish. He only saw the edge of the picture. But the edge is enough to understand. Mu-hyeon is no longer alone. Yeon-hwa stands nearby and says nothing. Then he says that if anyone knows the word Mondae, it means they'll come here. And that means Do-hyun now has not only victims, but also enemies who know how to fight on his turf. Do-hyun nods. 6,400 shadows. Nightmare 6. 7 names in his head. 4 marked. Baek, Ayeon, Chun-ho, Tae-sok. Cho-gwan is the 5th, but he's not on the square's list. 3 remain on the list. Kwon So-hyun and 2 others. Do-hyun turns toward the distant lights. Somewhere out there, beyond thousands of dreams, an entire empire sleeps. And soon, those who have come to kill him will enter this empire of dreams. Let enter. Do-hyun has spent 8 nights here. Yeon-hwa has spent 100 years here. They know every corner, every shadow, every rustle. The guests will regret knocking. The 12th night. Do-hyun stands on the grounds that now belong to him. A piece of Mondae the size of a training yard. Walls of gray mist. The floor is made of stone resembling that of Chongyun Square. He didn't choose this stone. Mondae chose it for him. Here, he is stronger than anywhere else. Yeon-hwa sits at the edge of the grounds, tracing patterns in the mist with her finger. Do-hyun counts. 6,400 shadows. Nightmare 6. He has worked every night for the past 4 nights. The 9th night. A minor vassal of the Che household. 200 shadows. The 10th night. A guard from Mu-hyeon's personal bodyguard. 300. The 11th. 2 servants who held Do-hyun on his knees before the chopping block. Trifling. 150 for the 2 of them, but each left fragments of memory. From the fragments, Do-hyun is piecing together a picture. Mu-hyeon is surrounded by 4 monks of the sleepless eye. 16 more arrived yesterday, 20 in total. They stand guard in shifts. They wake Mu-hyeon every 6 minutes with a steel needle in his neck. Mu-hyeon hasn't slept deeply for 12 days now. His eyes are red, his hands are trembling, but he's holding on. And one more thing. A face emerged from the guard's fragments of memory. The very one that had been blurred in Cho-gwan's memory. Now a little clearer. A gray hanbok, 30 years old, calm eyes. The name hasn't surfaced, but Do-hyun sensed the rank. Sun. Someone of the Sun rank is standing next to Mu-hyeon. This is bad. Sun is the 2nd level before the pinnacle of the cultivation system. Only Primordial ranks higher. There are fewer than 30 such people in the empire. Tonight, Do-hyun isn't hunting small fry. Tonight, he has a different target. An aristocrat named Cho Un-soo. Sky 6. 16,000 Hanryuk. One of Mu-hyeon's inner circle, not on the list of 7, but Yeon-hwa found his fire and it burns bright, a juicy target. Do-hyun touches the fire. He slips in. Cho Un-soo's dream is a reception hall, a long table, 30 chairs, empty. Cho Un-soo sits at the head of the table, fingering his prayer beads. Do-hyun appears at the far end of the table. Cho Un-soo looks up. He doesn't recognize him. He wasn't in the square. He didn't see Do-hyun's face. But he heard the name. The whole city heard it. Do-hyun takes a step. A second. On the 5th step, Cho Un-soo feels the pressure. On the 10th step, he sees the knife in Do-hyun's hand. On the 15th, he stands up. A pillar of Hanryuk flares up around him. Sky 6, 16,000, serious power. He strikes. The ice cascade technique. A torrent of Hanryuk crashes down on Do-hyeon like a wall of water. It passes right through him. Cho Un-soo strikes again, and then something changes. A man emerges from the wall behind Do-hyeon. Shaven head, white robe. His eyes are wide open, revealing the whites around his irises. A monk of the sleepless eye. But not from Mu-hyeon's guard. This one is different. He stands in Mondae, not in Cho Un-soo's dream. In Mondae, on the border between sleep and fog. Another appears on the left, and another on the right. 3 of them. They entered here as guests. Yeonhwa warned us. Guests are weaker than the host. But they are trained. They know that Mondae exists. They know the rules. The first monk attacks. Not Hanryuk. Something else. A technique Do-hyeon hasn't seen before. A white flame bursts from the monk's palms and strikes the fabric of the dream. The walls of the hall crack. The floor trembles. This isn't a blow against Do-hyeon. It's a blow against his control. They're destroying the architecture. If the dream collapses, Do-hyeon will lose his host's advantage. He'll become an equal guest in the neutral fog. The second monk lunges at Cho Un-soo and drags him toward the wall. He tries to pull him out of the dream, to wake him up. The third walks straight toward Do-hyeon. In his hand is a knife made of white bone. The blade flickers with the same white flame. The knife that works in Mondae. The knife that can wound the host. Do-hyeon takes a step back. For the first time since death, he retreats. The third monk strikes. The blade passes a centimeter from Do-hyeon's throat. He feels the heat, the white flame on the bone knife. Not an illusion, real. If this knife touches him, the wound will be real, even for the master of Mondae. Do-hyeon stops retreating. He recalls Yeonhwa's words. The master of space can change everything, including the guests. The guests have entered his house. They obey his rules. If he is strong enough. Do-hyeon changes the architecture. Not the walls, not the floor, the air. The air around the third monk thickens. It becomes viscous. The monk slows down. The knife's strike cuts through as if through water. Slowly. Do-hyeon dodges, grabs his arm, twists it. The monk doesn't scream. The monks of the sleepless eye do not scream. They severed their vocal cords 15 years ago. But the pain is visible in their eyes. Do-hyeon wrenches the bone knife from his hand. He turns around. The first monk is still striking the architecture. The walls are crumbling. The ceiling cracks. Sun Cho Un-soo's dream is falling apart. Do-hyeon does something he hasn't done before. He doesn't hold on to someone else's dream. He lets it collapse and builds his own from scratch in a split second. The hall vanishes. Cho Un-soo vanishes. The monk who is pulling him toward the wall loses his victim. There is nothing left around them but gray mist and Do-hyeon, the master's territory. The 3 monks stand in his space with no cover, without support, without someone else's dream to destroy. Do-hyeon strikes. A bone knife pierces the first monk's chest. The white flame on the blade fades. The monk falls and crumbles. He doesn't die. He is flung out of Mondae and back into his body. Somewhere in reality, this monk will wake up with a hole in his chest. The second monk runs. He tries to leave Mondae. Do-hyeon is faster. The fog around the fugitive closes in like a fist. The monk freezes. Do-hyeon approaches. He looks into the silent eyes. He asks who sent them. The monk doesn't answer. He can't. He has no tongue. His vocal cords were cut 15 years ago. Do-hyeon takes him by the head. He delves into his memory, not through words, through images. He sees a gray handbook, calm eyes. The face finally comes into clear focus. Young, 30 years old, thin lips, a mole under the left eye. Rank, Son 2. Name, Lee Han, the third prince. Do-hyeon releases the monk. He crumbles, wakes up in reality with an empty head. Hong-ryuk is erased. Memories of the past year wiped clean. The third monk, the one Do-hyeon wounded first. He stands on his knees in the fog. He looks up. Do-hyeon stands over him. He doesn't kill this one. He leaves this one. Yeon-hwa approaches. She looks at the monk, then at Do-hyeon. She nods. She understands. A prisoner. A source of information. The monk of the sleepless eye who knows the Black Lotus's methods from the inside. The monk cannot speak, but in Mondae, speech is not necessary. Thoughts can be read here if the owner allows it. Do-hyeon creates a small space for the monk. A windowless room, a bed, a table, silence. An illusion of peace that this monk hasn't had in 15 years. The monk lies down on the bed, closes his eyes. For the first time in 15 years, a needle isn't being stuck into his neck every 6 minutes. The nameless monk. That's what Do-hyeon calls him to himself. Mondae's first prisoner. The counter. Cho Eun-soo slipped away. He was woken up before Do-hyeon took the Hong-ryuk. A loss. But the monks brought the shadows. The fear of 3 trained fighters is worth more than the fear of 10 sleeping aristocrats. Total count, 4,600. No. The fight yielded more, 6,000, 7,200. No. Recalculation, double fear. The monk's fear plus the residual fear of Cho Eun-soo, who saw his sleep torn apart. Total, 9,800 shadows. Rank, Nightmare 9. The threshold of the Lord of Sleep is within arm's reach. Yeon-hwa looks at the number and, for the first time, says nothing. She is silent for a long time. Then she speaks a single sentence. She says that Lee Han will send more. The 20th night, Do-hyeon sits in the center of his territory and listens. The territory has grown, no longer a training yard, but an entire neighborhood. Gray walls, stone streets, lanterns made of frozen mist. All of this built itself. Mondae builds for the master. The more shadows, the more space. The nameless monk has revealed enough over the past 8 days. Not everything, but enough. The Black Lotus is neither a sect nor an order. It is a secret bureau with 300 agents. 11 of them are trained to enter Mondae. After midnight, 8 remain. They are regrouping. They will come again. This time, not in threes. All 8 at once. The nameless monk doesn't know when, but he knows how. They'll enter through a shared dream. They'll find the aristocrat whose dream Do-hyeon is attacking at that moment and burst in as a crowd. They'll bombard him with white flames. They'll destroy the architecture. And while Do-hyeon is busy with them, they'll wake the victim. A strategy of numbers. Rough, but effective if Do-hyeon is at the nightmare rank. The problem is that Do-hyeon is no longer at the nightmare rank. For the last 8 nights, he has worked non-stop. A target every night. A Hong-ryuk every night. Night 13. A minor official from the Che family's office. 400 shadows. Night 14. The wife of one of Mu-hyeon's advisors. She didn't participate in the conspiracy, but knew and kept silent. 600 shadows. Night 15. 2 guards from the palace guard. 300 between the 2 of them. Night 16. Empty. Kwon So-hyun, the third of the younger brothers from school, returned to the capital. Do-hyeon found his fire, entered his dream. Kwon So-hyun stood in the middle of an empty room and waited. He knew Do-hyeon would come. He didn't resist. He got down on his knees, said he was guilty, said he had applauded because he was afraid, said he had come back so that Do-hyeon could finish him off. Do-hyeon looked at him for a minute. Then he broke both his arms and took his honryuk. But he left his face, he left his eyes, he left his tongue. Kwon So-hyun woke up in the morning crippled but able to speak. He was the first of the victims to speak out loud. He went to the magistrate and stated on record that Choi Do-hyeon was innocent, that the conspiracy had been organized by Mu-hyeon, that the execution was a sham. The magistrate accepted the statement and immediately had it printed on the orders of the Choi family. But rumors had already begun to spread. Kwon So-hyun gave Do-hyun something more valuable than the shadows, a voice in the real world. Night 17, Night 18, Night 19. Work, non-stop, small goals, fragments of memory, pieces of a mosaic. From every dream, Do-hyun brings back not only the shadows, but also knowledge. Now he knows that Prince Lee-han keeps an artifact in his chambers capable of blocking dreams, the crown of sleeplessness. He knows that Lee-han leads the Black Lotus. He knows that the Black Lotus has been hunting for the fragments of the seal for 300 years. He knows there are only 7 fragments, and 1 is in his chest. The remaining 6 are scattered across the treasuries of the great houses and the imperial family. Every night brings a piece of the map. The map is coming together. The 20th night. Do-hyun stands on his territory. The counter. 11,200 shadows. Rank. Lord of Sleep 1. The threshold has been crossed. Yeonhwa explained what that means. At the rank of Lord of Sleep, the most important thing changes. The ratio of time. Before, 2 hours in a dream equaled 1 second in reality. Now it's the opposite. 1 second in a dream equals 2 hours outside. Do-hyun can spend 1 subjective minute in someone else's dream while 6 days pass in reality. Or vice versa. He chooses the speed. He can slow down time inside a dream to an instant. A blow that lasts a subjective 7 hours now takes a fraction of a second in reality. They won't have time to wake the victim. Second, the radius expands again. Now he has access not only to those who have heard of him, but to those who have heard rumors about him. The third circle of knowledge, all of Chongyun, and a few people outside the capital. Third, at the rank of Lord of Sleep 1, he can see others' dreams from the outside, not enter, observe, as if through a window. Do-hyun turns toward the far edge of Myeongdong, toward where the lights of the imperial palace burn. Among them, one burns differently. It doesn't pulse. It flickers evenly, protected, like a candle behind thick glass. Prince Lee-han's dream. Son 2. Head of the Black Lotus. The man who urged Mu-hyeon to kill his father. Who orchestrated the entire conspiracy because Do-hyun was supposed to marry the prince's sister, and she preferred Do-hyun to the prince himself. Wounded pride at the level of the throne. Do-hyun approaches the fire. He doesn't touch it. He looks right through it. He sees. Lee-han sleeps in chambers lined with black silk. Around him are 4 protective circles of honryuk. Each circle is of the sun rank. The bed stands on a white stone pedestal engraved with runes of the First Dynasty. Runes that are 300 years old. This man knows about Mondae and was preparing for a visit long before Do-hyun. It is impossible to enter. 4 circles of the sun rank will repel anyone below the level of a reality devourer. Do-hyun stands and watches. Lee-han opens his eyes in his sleep. He does not wake up. His eyes open in his sleep. He senses it. He senses that someone is watching. He turns his head toward the wall. He stares into the void. Do-hyun looks into his eyes through the barrier. They see each other for the first time. Lee-han doesn't move. He doesn't strike. He doesn't scream. He smiles, subtly, like a man who has seen a beast in a cage and is gauging its worth. Do-hyeon doesn't smile. He memorizes the smile, adds it to the list, walks away. Lee-han closes his eyes. The protective circles pulse brighter. Yeon-hwa stands nearby. He says that to reach Lee-han, he needs at least the rank of Reality Devourer 2. That's 100,000 shadows. He's at 11,000. Far off, but closer than yesterday. Do-hyun turns away from the palace. He looks at his territory. A gray neighborhood. Streetlights emerging from the fog. In the corner, the nameless monk's room. Quiet. Peaceful. Do-hyun walks past. The monk is sleeping. For the first time in 15 years, he is truly sleeping. In a dream within a dream. Do-hyun walks on. He stops at the edge of the territory. Beyond the edge lies fog and thousands of lights. 7 names. Baek, Ayeon, Chun-ho, Tae-suk, So-hyun. 5 are marked. 2 remain. And behind them, Mu-hyeon. And behind Mu-hyeon, Lee-han. And behind Lee-han, something else. Something stirring in the deepest layers of Mondae. Something Yeon-hwa refuses to discuss. Do-hyun senses it sometimes, a distant vibration, like the snoring of a giant beyond the horizon. He doesn't ask, not yet. The 20th night, 11,200 shadows, Lord of Sleep 1. Do-hyun steps into the fog and vanishes among the dreams of strangers. The work continues. The 35th night, a feast at the Cho house, a tradition that Mu-hyeon did not dare to cancel. Once a season, all the vassals, allies, and courtiers of the Cho house gather in the Great Hall for a communal meal. 120 people, aristocrats from Earth 3 to Sky 8. The hall's total honryuk, over 400,000 units. Mu-hyeon sits at the head of the table. 20 monks of the Sleepless Eye stand behind him in 2 rows, needles at the ready. Every 6 minutes, one of them pricks Mu-hyeon in the neck. Mu-hyeon flinches and continues eating. The guests pretend not to notice. The feast lasts until midnight. Wine flows like a river. By 1 o'clock in the morning, a third of the guests have fallen asleep right at the table. By 2 o'clock, 2/3 are asleep. By 3, everyone is asleep except Mu-hyeon and his monks. 114 aristocrats are snoring in a single hall. Their dreams merge. Yeon-hwa warned that this would happen. When many sleepers are close together, their dreams touch at the edges. At the rank of Dream Lord 3, Do-hyun can sew these edges into a single space, a shared dream. 114 doors into a single hall. Do-hyun stands in Mond and looks at the cluster of lights. 114, dense, bright, like a bonfire. He hasn't stopped for the past 15 nights. A target every night. Every night, Hongryok and the shadows. The counter, 23,400. Dream Lord 3. Yeon-hwa stands beside him. She says this is a once-in-a-season opportunity. 114 sleepers in one place. Among them are 3 from the list, the last 2 younger brothers of the replacements. No, not the younger brothers, the other 2, the ones who stood in the square. A counselor of the Che household named Park Woo-jin and treasurer Im Dong-hae, both in the hall, both asleep. And around them, 112 witnesses, 112 pairs of eyes that will see what Do-hyun does to those who betrayed him. Yeon-hwa said to work loudly. It doesn't get any louder than this. Do-hyun touches the cluster of lights, not just one, all of them, at the same time. The world jerks. It doesn't split in 2 like it did back then with Chun-ho and Tae-suk. It explodes. 114 dreams merge into one. A hall, The same hall, the large banquet hall of the Choi residence. Tables, candles, wine. Everything is just like in reality, but the ceiling is higher, the walls are farther apart, and the candles burn with a gray flame. 114 aristocrats sit at the tables and don't understand what has happened. Many think they've woken up. Some continue to eat. One pours wine and wonders why it has no taste. Do-hyeon appears in the center of the hall, dressed as the heir to the Choi family, white and gold, a coat of arms on his chest, a face missing its right eye. The empty socket stares into the hall. Silence falls like an axe. 114 people freeze simultaneously. Someone drops a cup. The sound is hollow and distant, like in a well. Do-hyeon turns toward Park Woo-jin. The advisor is sitting in the 7th row, Sky 2, 11,000 Honryuk. His face is as white as rice. Do-hyeon takes a step. Park Woo-jin jumps up and strikes. The shattered earth technique. The floor of the hall cracks within a 10-meter radius. Shards of stone fly in all directions. The guests around them recoil. 2 are injured by the shards. Their bodies are actually bleeding. The technique passes right through Do-hyeon. He doesn't slow his pace. Park Woo-jin strikes again and again. Each blow shatters a section of the hall and injures those nearby. Do-hyeon closes in. He grabs Park Woo-jin by the throat, lifts him up. The Honryuk pillar surrounding the advisor begins to thin. 11,000. 9. 7. Do-hyeon pulls, slowly, methodically. Every spectator in the hall sees the numbers above Park Woo-jin's head melting away. Do-hyeon has learned to project numbers. At the rank of Dream Lord, this is possible. Now everyone in the shared dream sees the victim's Honryuk in real time. 5,000. 3. 1. 0. Park Woo-jin goes limp. Do-hyeon throws him to the floor. The body falls like a sack. He turns toward Im Dong-hae. The treasurer is already running, pushing guests aside, looking for an exit. There is no exit. The walls of Mondae have no doors for those whom the master does not let go. Im Dong-hae is pressed against the wall. He turns around. Sky 4. 14,000 Honryuk. He strikes. 3 techniques in a row. All go through. Do-hyeon approaches, takes his hand, twists it. The treasurer screams, and all 114 hear the scream. Do-hyeon works for a minute, a subjective minute. In reality, it's a fraction of a second. At the rank of the Lord of Sleep, time obeys. Im Dong-hae falls, armless, 0 Honryuk. Do-hyeon stands in the center of the hall. Around him are 112 aristocrats, 112 witnesses. They watch. No one moves. No one breathes. Do-hyeon turns to them. He scans the hall. With 1 empty eye socket and 1 intact eye, he speaks a single sentence. He says that everyone who was in the square will sleep poorly. Then he vanishes. The collective dream shatters. 114 people wake up simultaneously in the banquet hall of the Choi residence. Screams, panic, chairs topple over. Someone runs for the exit. Someone calls for a doctor. Park Woo-jin lies unconscious on the floor. Heart rate, 0. Im Dong-hae lies next to him. Both arms are missing at the wrists. Heart rate, 0. The doctor runs over. He takes a reading. The needle goes white. Merit again. Drops the plate. Mu-hyeon stands at the head of the table, the only one who wasn't asleep. He saw how 114 people froze simultaneously for 3 seconds. How 2 of them started bleeding. How Im Dong-hae lost his arms right before his eyes. 3 seconds. That's how long the collective dream lasted in real time. 3 seconds during which Mu-hyeon could do nothing. The monks stand behind him and exchange glances. They saw it too. They couldn't do anything either. Mu-hyeon sits down. He takes a cup of wine. His hand trembles for the first time in 35 days. He doesn't drink. He puts the cup back down. He speaks to one of the monks. "Prepare the crown for me." "Morning." The capital, Chongyun. The news spreads within an hour. 112 witnesses, and each one tells the next. A feast at the Choi residence. 2 people destroyed in 3 seconds, in front of everyone. The name Choi Do-hyeon is whispered on every street corner, in fear. The imperial physician Yoon Sang-hee sits in her office and counts. Honryuk losses over 35 days, the total amount. She sets down her brush, picks it up again, rereads the number, stands up. Goes to the emperor. In Mondae, Do-hyeon stands on his territory. The territory has grown again. An entire block has turned into a district. Gray streets, squares, streetlights, the counter. 23,400 plus 11,000 from Park Ujin plus 14,000 from Im Dong-hae. No, the shadows count differently. Not Honryuk. Fear. The fear of 2 victims plus the terror of 112 witnesses. Each witness contributed a drop. 112 drops of the aristocrat's horror. The shadows' total count, 41,000. Rank, Lord of Sleep 7, a leap in a single night. Yeonhwa stands at the edge of the territory and gazes into the distance. She is silent for a long time. Then she turns around. She says that at the rank of Lord of Sleep 7, one thing she has been waiting for is now available to him. A connection with a living consciousness without inflicting wounds. Pure contact. Conversation. Do-hyeon freezes. He understands. Yeonhwa nods. She says it's time. There is one person in the real world whom he must find. Not for revenge, not for the shadows, for something more important. Choi Do-hyeon, his younger sister, 16 years old, the only family member who did not participate in the conspiracy. Under house arrest with Mu-hyeon, Do-hyeon closes his eyes. He searches among the lights. He finds her. A small, warm light deep within the Choi palace. The quiet sleep of a child who cries every night before falling asleep. The 40th night. Do-hyeon touches the small, warm light deep within the Choi palace. He touches it gently. For the first time in 40 nights, he doesn't break down the door. He knocks. At the rank of Lord of Sleep 7, he can enter the dream not as a predator, but as a guest, without pressure, without architectural changes. Just step inside and stand. Yeonhwa says this is important. If he breaks in, he'll wake them up and the connection will be severed. If he enters gently, he'll be able to speak. Do-hyeon enters, Choi Do-hwa's dream. This is their old home, not a palace, a house on a country estate where they lived before their father became the patriarch. Wooden floors, low ceilings, the smell of cooked rice from the kitchen. Do-hwa sits on the porch and looks out at the garden. She is 16 in reality, but here she is 12. She sees herself as she was when she was happy. In the dress her mother sewed before she died giving birth to her 4th child. Do-hyeon stands in the doorway. He doesn't move. He doesn't know what to say. For 40 nights he cut people, broke bones, gouged out eyes, wiped away faces. He took the Honryuk and counted the shadows. For 40 nights he was an executioner, and now he stands in his sister's orphanage and cannot take a step. Do-hwa turns her head. She looks at him. She doesn't scream. She doesn't run. She doesn't cry. She stands up. She walks over. She looks up at him. She's small, even for a 12-year-old. Do-hyeon always joked that she'd stolen all the family's brains, but forgotten to grab the height. Do-hwa says one sentence. She says she knew he'd come back. Do-hyeon is silent. Do-hwa takes his hand. Do-hyeon's hand is ice cold, the hand of a dead man. Do-hwa doesn't let go. She leads him to the veranda. She sits him down next to her. They sit and look at the garden. The cherry trees are in bloom. In reality, it's autumn now. In Do-hwa's dreams, it's always spring. Do-hyun starts to speak, not about revenge, not about the shadows, not about Mondae. He asks how she is. Do-hwa says she's under house arrest. Mu-hyeon has locked her in the east wing of the palace. 2 guards stand at the door. Food is brought 3 times a day. She's taken out for a walk for an hour. Mu-hyeon visits once a week. He asks if she dreams of her brother. Do-hwa says that until tonight, she would have answered no. Now the answer has changed. Do-hyun tells her to keep answering no. Do-hwa nods. She lived for 16 years in a house where betrayal was a daily routine. She knows how to lie. Do-hyun asks what she knows about what happened. Do-hwa knows everything, not because she was told, because she listened through the walls. The guards chatter, the maids whisper. In 40 nights, she gathered more information than Do-hyun did from the fragmented memories of 10 victims. Mu-hyeon is losing control. Rumors about Do-hyun have shattered the Choi family's reputation. 3 vassal clans have declared neutrality. Trade volume has fallen by 1/3 because merchants are afraid to deal with a house haunted by a ghost. Monks of the Sleepless Eye stand guard around Mu-hyeon day and night, but the rest of the household is unprotected. Servants are quitting. Guards are resigning. No one wants to fall asleep within the walls of the Choi household. Do-hwa says one more thing. She says that 3 days ago, Mu-hyeon received a package from the Imperial Palace, a small box of black lacquer. Mu-hyeon opened it in his study and closed the door. Do-hwa didn't see what was inside, but she heard Mu-hyeon standing by the window afterward, breathing heavily for about 20 minutes. Do-hwa knows what's in the box. The crown of sleeplessness. Lee Han sent it. Do-hwa says Mu-hyeon has changed. His eyes are constantly red. His hands are shaking. He hasn't slept properly in 40 days. 6 minutes in fits and starts. A needle in the neck. 6 minutes. A needle. The human body isn't built for this. Mu-hyeon is holding on with potions and cultivation. Sky 9 allows for a lot, but not forever. Do-hwa falls silent. Then she asks directly. He asks what he'll do to Mu-hyeon. Do-hwan is silent for a long time. Then he says he'll take everything. Everything Mu-hyeon stole. His name, his home, power, reputation, but not life. He'll spare his life so that Mu-hyeon can see how everything has collapsed with his one remaining eye. Do-hwa nods. She doesn't argue. She doesn't ask for mercy for her brother because Mu-hyeon killed their father and executed their older brother. Mercy ended at Chongnyeon Square. Do-hyun says he needs an agent in the real world, eyes and ears in the palace, someone who can move among the living. Do-hwa says she's under arrest and has 2 guards. Do-hyun says the guards are asleep. Do-hwa understands. She smiles. Her first smile in 40 days. Subtle and cold, just like Yeon-hwa's. A family trait, it turns out. They discuss the plan. Do-hyun will enter her dreams every 3rd night to exchange information. During the day, Do-hwa will watch Mu-hyeon and gather data. Do-hyun will deal with the guards sleeping on duty. No maiming. He'll turn their dreams into nightmares so unbearable that they'll start fearing duty at Do-hwa's door. They'll ask for a transfer. Mu-hyeon will assign new ones. Do-hyun will handle the new ones. And so on until there are no guards left at the door. Small work, drop by drop. But this is the bridge between worlds, the only one. Do-hwa asks one more thing. He asks if he's even alive or not. Do-hyun thinks. Then he says he doesn't know. He has no body, no heart, no blood. But he remembers. He thinks. He feels. Is he angry? No. The anger ended on the chopping block. Only work remains. Do-hwa takes his hand again. She squeezes it. The dead man's icy fingers and the warm palm of a 16-year-old girl. They sit on the orphanage porch and watch the cherry blossoms bloom. A minute later, Do-hwa begins to drift off within the dream. This means the dream is ending. She slips into a deep, dreamless sleep. Do-hyeon is left alone on the porch. He stands up. He steps out of the dream. He stands in Myeongdong. The counter hasn't changed. 41,000 shadows. He didn't take anything. He didn't hurt anyone. He didn't scare anyone. The first night in 40 nights when he didn't take a single shadow. Yeonhwa is waiting outside. She looks at him. She asks how it went. Do-hyun doesn't answer. He walks past her. He stops after 10 steps. Without turning around, he says that he now has eyes in the real world. Yeonhwa nods. Then he says one more thing. He says that Mu-hyeon has received the crown, that he'll put it on soon, and when he puts it on, Do-hyun will lose direct access to him. Do-hyun says he knows. Yeonhwa asks, what then? Do-hyun is silent. Then he says that if you can't reach a person directly, you have to reach everything that surrounds him, everyone who serves him, to everyone who feeds him, to everyone who falls asleep beside him. Take them all, one by one, until Mu-hyeon is left standing in an empty palace, in an empty city, in an empty empire, alone, in the crown that devours his mind, with 2 eyes that see only ruins. And then, when the crown has devoured him completely, when he takes it off because there is nothing left to protect, then Do-hyun will enter. Yeonhwa listens. For the first time in 100 years, her face is not cold. Something else, something like recognition. She has seen people like this before. 100 years ago, when the first emperor built Mondae on the nightmares of others. The same tone, the same silence, the same work. Yeonhwa turns away. Do-hyun stands at the edge of the territory. 41,000 shadows. Lord of Sleep 7. The 50th night is approaching. Mu-hyeon will soon put on the crown. The clock is ticking. For both of them. The 50th night. Do-hwa enters her dream with news. Mu-hyeon has put on the crown. This morning, he locked himself in his study for an hour. He came out with a black band on his head, thin, almost invisible, fused into the skin on his forehead like a birthmark. Mu-hyeon's eyes changed after he put it on. They had been red from lack of sleep. Now they're cloudy, like water in a pond after rain. He sees, but not like before. He looks at objects and focuses a second later. The crown is already working. It's devouring his mind. 30 days until complete madness. The clock has started. Do-hyeon says the monks of the Sleepless Eye have removed the needles. They are no longer needed. The sleepless crown blocks dreams completely. Mu-hyeon can sleep normally. 8 hours without interruption. For the first time in 50 days. But this is a sleep without dreams. Empty. Black, like death without death. Do-hyeon stands in Mondae and stares where Mu-hyeon's fire once burned. The fire is gone. Empty. A black dot among thousands of lights. A hole in the fabric of Mond. The crown is working. Mu-hyeon is out of reach. Do-hyun turns away. Yeonhwa is nearby, the nameless monk in his room. Hyuk, the executioner whom Do-hyun found on the 30th, stands at the edge of the territory, sharpening his sword. Hyuk, the executioner from the square, the one who cut off Do-hyun's head, a commoner who was ordered to do so. On the 30th night, Do-hyun entered his nightmare. By then, Hyuk had already gone mad with guilt. Every night he dreamed of the chopping block. Every night he chopped. Every night the head rolled and stared at him. 50 nights in a row. Do-hyun appeared in Hyuk's nightmare, and Hyuk fell to his knees. Not out of fear, out of relief. He said he had been waiting. He said he deserved it. Do-hyun looked at this man, big hands, calluses from the axe, the eyes of a hunted animal, a commoner, a half-soul. 3 copper coins for a life. He was ordered to do it. He carried it out, just as he had done hundreds of times before, because an executioner has no right to refuse. Do-hyeon didn't kill him, didn't wound him. He reached out and pulled Hyuk out of the nightmare into his own territory. He said he had a job for him. Hyuk asked what kind. Do-hyeon said the same one. Chopping. But now, those whom Do-hyeon would designate. Hyuk took the sword. He has lived in Mond ever since. He is not dead. In reality, his body sleeps in a cubbyhole behind the barracks. Every night, his consciousness comes here. Every night, he sharpens his sword. He waits for orders. The 50th night. The strategy changes. Mu-hyeon is out of reach. So the target is not Mu-hyeon. The target is everything around Mu-hyeon. Do-hwa gave a list. 12 people. The new patriarch's inner circle. Advisors. Guard commanders. The treasurer. The personal physician. The cook. 2 concubines. The head servant. 12 people who make Mu-hyeon's life possible. Without them, he is a starving, blind cripple in an empty palace. Do-hyeon starts with the cook. Not because the cook is more important than the others, because the cook sleeps more soundly than anyone else. Works from 4 in the morning until 10 at night. Falls into bed like a stone. His sleep is as deep as a well. The cook is no aristocrat, a commoner, honor level 0. But Do-hyeon doesn't need the cook's honor. He needs a cook, alive, functioning, terrified to the point where every morning his hands shake and the soup comes out salty. Do-hyeon enters the cook's dream, the kitchen. Steam. Rice is boiling in a pot. Do-hyeon sits on a stool and says the soup needs stirring. The cook turns around. He sees the dead heir of the Choi family. He drops the ladle. Do-hyeon doesn't touch him. He just sits there. He just stares. The cook presses himself against the wall. Do-hyeon says that tomorrow morning, the cook will serve breakfast to Mu-hyeon, and tomorrow night, and the night after, and every day. But every night, Do-hyeon will be here, on this stool. And every night, the cook will know that at any moment, Do-hyeon could stand up. The cook sobs. Do-hyeon stands up. He leaves, without touching him. In the morning, the cook serves Mu-hyeon breakfast. His hands are shaking. Soup spills. Mu-hyeon looks at the shaking hands. He asks what happened. The cook is silent. Mu-hyeon doesn't press the issue. The following night, the personal physician, Earth 5, 4,000 Honryuk. Do-hyeon enters. He doesn't hurt him. He sits in a chair in the corner of the physician's office and remains silent. He watches. The physician wakes up in a cold sweat. In the morning, he comes to Mu-hyeon for an examination. His hands are shaking. The Honryuk plate is rattling. Mu-hyeon notices. He asks. The physician remains silent. The following night, the commander of the guard. The next, the senior servant. The next, the concubine. Do-hyeon doesn't touch any of the 12, doesn't break them, doesn't cut them. He enters, he sits down, he watches, he leaves. A different one every night. Every morning, a different person from Mu-hyeon's inner circle comes out with trembling hands and glassy eyes. Do-hwa reports. By the 55th night, the cook had quit. The physician submitted a request for a transfer. One of the concubines escaped over the wall at night. The captain of the guard started drinking. The senior servant stopped sleeping and walks the corridors until morning, talking to himself. Mu-hyeon stands in his study, the crown on his forehead. The 5th day of 30. His eyes are cloudier. His focus is worse. Sometimes he forgets his words mid-sentence. Sometimes he turns his head at a sound that isn't there. The crown is eating him, methodically, piece by piece. And the world around him is emptying, one person after another. Do-hwa says that Mu-hyeon has started talking to his father, to his dead father. He sits in the study across from an empty chair and discusses matters at home. The monks of the Sleepless Eye stand in the corners and remain silent. They do not interfere. Their job is to guard the body, not the mind. The shadows. Do-hyeon does not take the Honryuk and does not wound. So there are few shadows in the inner circle. Drops. But 41,000 continues to grow at the expense of others. Do-hyeon has not stopped the hunt. Every other night, he works on the aristocrats outside the palace. Cho's vassals, allies, those who supported Mu-hyeon after the execution, those who remained silent. Every night, it's the Honryuk and the shadows, the counter, the 55th night, 51,000 shadows, Lord of Sleep 8, the 60th night, 63,000, on the threshold of the Lord of Sleep 9. Imperial physician Yoon Sang-hee came to the emperor on the 20th night. Now, on the 60th, she comes again. She kneels. Her voice is steady, but her hands are not. She says that in 60 days, the empire has lost cultivation potential equivalent to 40 years of training. She says this is impossible, that someone is erasing the cores. The emperor listens. He is silent. Yoon Sang-hee waits for an answer. The emperor says one word, sort it out. Yoon Sang-hee exits. In the palace corridor stands Guard Commander Han Jae-won. He is in charge of security. On the 60th night, he stands in the barracks where his best warriors sleep and counts the wounded. 7 in the last week. 3 have lost their arms. 2 have gone blind. 1 is mute. 1 is completely empty. Honryuk, 0. Han Jae-won leans against the wall. He whispers that he cannot protect them from what does not exist. In the morning, he submits a request for resignation. The emperor refuses. Do-hyeon stands in Mondae, the 63rd night, 68,200 shadows, Lord of Sleep 9. The threshold of the reality devourer is visible. 100,000, 32,000 to go. The 71st night, Do-hwa enters a dream with a name, Choi Do-hyeon, Mu-hyeon's younger sister from his father's second concubine, 17 years old. A quiet girl who draws flowers and has no interest in politics. The only person in the world Choi Mu-hyeon loves. Do-hwa says that Mu-hyeon visits Soo-yeon every day, despite the crown. Despite his cloudy eyes and forgotten words, he sits down next to her and watches her draw. He doesn't say anything. He just sits there. Soo-yeon is the only one who isn't afraid of him. The only one who takes his hand when he forgets where he is. The 20th day of the crown. 10 days left. Do-hwa says that yesterday, Mu-hyeon called Soo-yeon by their mother. Then he corrected himself. Then he forgot that he'd corrected himself. Corona eats faster. Do-hyeon listens. He's silent. Then he asks where Soo-yeon sleeps. Do-hwa says, West Wing, 2nd floor. A room overlooking the plum orchard. No guards. Monks stand only by Mu-hyeon. No one needs Soo-yeon. No one considers her a target. Do-hyeon says she is a target. Do-hwa flinches. He asks if he's not going to. Do-hyeon says he won't touch Soo-yeon, won't hurt her, won't scare her. He'll do something else. Leave a message. In her dream. A message for Mu-hyeon. Because Mu-hyeon comes to Soo-yeon every day. And if one day Soo-yeon tells him what she saw in her dream, that she saw Do-hyeon, that he spoke to her words meant for Mu-hyeon, whether it's the crown or not, protection or not, Mu-hyeon will hear. Do-hwa understands. He nods. The 71st night. Do-hyeon enters Soo-yeon's dream, carefully, gently, just as he used to enter Do-hwa's room. Soo-yeon's dream is a studio. Brushes, ink, rice paper, drawings hang on the wall, flowers, mountains, birds. Soo-yeon sits at a table and paints a chrysanthemum. Do-hyeon appears at the door. Soo-yeon looks up. She doesn't recognize him. She never saw Do-hyeon when he was alive. He was executed before she moved into the palace. To her, he is a stranger with no right eye. Do-hyeon says he didn't come to see her. He says her chrysanthemums are beautiful. He says he wants to leave a letter for her brother. So-yeon tilts her head. She asks for whom? Do-hyeon says for Mu-hyeon. Soo-yeon asks who he is. Do-hyeon says he is the one Mu-hyeon killed. Soo-yeon isn't scared. In a dream, fear works differently when the master of the territory isn't looming over her. She looks at the empty eye socket and accepts it as part of the dream. She asks what kind of letter it is. Do-hyeon sits down across from her. He takes a brush, rice paper, ink. He writes 3 lines. Not characters, images. Because Soo-yeon will remember the picture, not the text. First image, a square, a chopping block, a bowl of porridge on the edge. Second, a mirror. In the mirror, Mu-hyeon, but without hands, without a tongue, with one eye. Third, the patriarch's empty chair, dust on the chair. Do-hyeon puts down the brush, tells Soo-yeon to draw this in the morning. She simply drew it and showed it to Mu-hyeon when he arrived. So-yeon looks at the 3 images. She nods. To her, it's just a strange dream. In the morning, she'll wake up and draw it because she draws everything she sees in her dreams. It's her habit. Do-hyeon stands up. He leaves. He doesn't look back. Morning. Soo-yeon is drawing 3 pictures on rice paper, a square, a mirror, an empty chair. She hangs them on the wall next to the chrysanthemums. In the afternoon, Mu-hyeon arrives. He sits down. He looks at the wall. He sees the new drawings. He stands up. He steps closer. He looks at the square with the scaffold, at the bowl of porridge, at the mirror with his face, without arms, at the empty chair. He stands there for a minute. 2. Soo-yeon says she dreamed of a man without a right eye. Mu-hyeon turns to her. His eyes are cloudy from the coronavirus. But deep within the cloudiness, something flashes. Bright, sharp, like a needle. Mu-hyeon asks in an even voice what else the man said. Soo-yeon says he said that Mu-hyeon killed him. Mu-hyeon leaves the room. He walks down the hallway, quickly. The monks follow him. In his office, he sits down at the desk. He picks up a brush. His hand trembles. He puts a dot on the paper. The dot blurs. He has forgotten what he wanted to write. The crown. The 21st day. 9 days left. Mu-hyeon sits over the paper and tries to remember. He can't. He crumples the sheet. He takes a new one. He puts a dot. It blurs again. He has forgotten again. The monk behind him exchanges glances with another monk. They see that the patriarch is losing his mind. Mu-hyeon drops the brush. He stands up. He walks to the window. He stands there. He looks out into the garden. A plum tree. The very one that grew in Beck's garden. Mu-hyeon looks at the tree and his lips move. He is talking to his brother. With his dead older brother. He says he isn't afraid, that the crown is holding firm, that Do-hyeon won't get in. Then he falls silent, because he remembers that Do-hyeon wasn't trying to get in. Do-hyeon went to Soo-yeon, to the only one Mu-hyeon cannot protect, because the crown protects only its bearer. And to protect Soo-yeon, he needs to place the crown on her. But the crown will kill a 17-year-old girl in a week. Mu-hyeon stands by the window. He understands. Do-hyeon isn't drawn to him. Do-hyeon is drawn to everything around him, to the cook, to the physician, to the guards, to the concubines, to Soo-yeon, taking them piece by piece, person by person, until only Mu-hyeon remains. In Mond, Do-hyeon stands and counts. The 71st night. The shadows haven't grown since his visit to Soo-yeon. He didn't scare her. He didn't hurt her. But around him, Mond vibrates differently, deeper, quieter, as if space itself approves. Yeonhwa says it's territorial resonance. When the master of Mond acts in harmony with the nature of space, it grows without shadows. It simply expands, like water filling a riverbed. Do-hyeon's territory tripled overnight. An entire district became a city, a gray city in the fog. His city. Do-hyeon stands on the roof of the tallest building and looks down. Hyuk sharpens his sword in the square. The nameless monk sleeps in his room. Yan-hwa draws patterns on the pavement. 4 in the city of a dead man. The counter. 68,200 shadows. On the threshold of the reality devourer. 32,000 to 100. The 88th night lies ahead. The head of the So household. A safe containing the first of the 6 fragments of the seal. The 88th night. Do-hyeon stands before a fire that burns unlike any other. Heavy, dense, like a piece of amber trapping a fly. The fire of So Chong-gil, the great elder of the So house. The son -1. The father of So I-yeon, whose face Do-hyeon erased on the 7th night. One of the empire's strongest cultivators, and the keeper of one of the 6 remaining fragments of the Mondae Seal. Do-hyeon knows this from fragments of memory, from the interrogations of the nameless monk, from snippets of conversations that Do-hwa overheard through the palace walls. 6 fragments, 6 treasuries, 1 at the So residence, 1 with Prince Lee-han, 4 in other places. But the fragments are not kept in real-world safes. They are too important for stone and steel. The great houses hid them in dreams. A dream safe, a structure within a dream that exists independently of the sleeper. Built 300 years ago by the masters of the first dynasty, bound to the blood of the lineage. Only the head of the house can open it in a dream, and only if they know where to look. So Chong-gil knows. Do-hyeon doesn't know, but he has Yan-hwa, who lived in Mondae for 100 years and saw the first dream vaults being built. Yan-hwa explained the mechanics. A safe is a room inside a dream hidden behind false walls. To find it, you must enter the keeper's dream and go to a spot that looks like an ordinary wall in the dream. The floor, the ceiling, anything. But behind that surface lies a second layer, a safe, protected by the blood of the clan and the guardians Han Ryok. At the Nightmare Walker rank, Do-hyeon wouldn't even be able to see the wall. As a Dream Lord, he can see it. At the threshold of the Devourer, he can open it. Do-hyeon touches the fire. He enters. So Chong-gil's dream is a battlefield. The old man fights in his sleep. He is always fighting. It is his nature. A plain, 2 armies. So Chong-gil on a war horse, a sword in his hand. Hongryuk blazes. Sun 1, 180,000 units. A pillar of power rises around him, higher than any building in the capital. This is the strongest sacrifice of all 88 nights. Do-hyeon does not attack. It would be foolish to charge head-on at So Chong-gil. Sun 1 is a level at which, even in a dream, a cultivator's body reacts instinctively. A single blow would be enough to damage the architecture and wake the old man. Do-hyeon takes a detour. He is not the master of this dream, but he is the master of Mondae. A subtle difference. The dream belongs to the sleeper. Mondae belongs to Do-hyeon. The dream is inside Mondae. So Do-hyeon can bypass the dream along its outer edge. Like a thief who doesn't enter a house through the door, but goes around via the roof. Do-hyeon glides along the walls of the dream, searching. Yan-hwa said that the dream safe is visible as a thickening in the fabric of the dream, a place where reality is thicker than it should be. Do-hyeon searches for 5 subjective minutes. He finds it, beneath the battlefield, underground, beneath the army's feet. A dark knot of density, solid, like a stone in soft clay. The dream safe. Do-hyeon descends. He passes through the earth of the dream. This is his mond. The earth parts. Below is a room, a small long. Stone walls without windows. A pedestal in the center. On the pedestal, a box of white jade. 3 rings of protection encircle the box. The blood of the So clan. Do-hyeon approaches. He touches the first ring. His hand burns. The Sun 1's Hongryuk strikes his fingers like a hammer. Do-hyeon pulls his hand back. He looks. His fingers are intact. He is in Mondae. Here, his body is regenerating. But the pain is real. Second attempt. Do-hyeon doesn't try to break through the protection with brute force. He is the Lord of Sleep 9, and the protection is sun level. Force won't work. He needs another approach. Yeon-hwa said that the shard of the seal in his chest is the key to all the dream safes. The seal created the safes 300 years ago. The seal can open them. Do-hyun places his palm on the protective ring. He doesn't press. He doesn't strike. He just holds it and allows the shard in his chest to resonate. The fragment vibrates, softly, then louder. The first ring trembles. It cracks. It crumbles to dust. The second, the third. 3 protective rings that have held for 300 years disintegrate in 10 seconds. Do-hyun opens the box. Inside, light, green, the same shade as in his chest. A fragment of the Mondae Seal, the second of 7. Do-hyun takes it. The fragment melts in his palm. It seeps into his skin, passes through his hand, through his chest. It settles next to the first shard. 2 of 7. The world trembles. Mondae trembles. The entire space of dreams, from edge to edge, shudders for a split second. Yeon-hwa, on Do-hyun's territory, feels the jolt. She grabs the wall. The nameless monk wakes up in his room. Hyuk drops his sword. Somewhere in the depths of Mondae, far beyond the horizon, something stirs. What was stirring quietly that moved quietly now moves loudly. The counter. The shadows. 68,200 plus 25,800. A fragment of the seal is not just a shard. It is the concentrated horror of 300 years ago. The fear of an entire clan sealed in stone. Total: 94,000 shadows. Rank: Reality Devourer -1. The threshold has been crossed. Do-hyun rises from the underworld of sleep, so Chung-gil feels a jolt on the battlefield. The horse beneath him rears up. The old man grabs the mane. He looks down. Beneath the hooves, the earth glows green. For a second. Then it fades. So Chung-gil doesn't understand what happened, but he feels it. Something is gone. Something that had been in his blood for 300 years. In the morning, so Chung-gil wakes up with a feeling of emptiness. Not in his core, in his lineage. He summons the guardian of the treasury. The guardian checks. The physical safe is in place. All the seals are intact. Everything is in place. Except for one thing. The keeper cannot explain it, but he senses that the jade box he checks every month is empty. Even though it is locked, even though the seals are intact, it is empty. So Chung-gil sits in his chair. He recalls his daughter's face, smooth skin without features. He recalls the numbers, falling every week. The grand elder of the So house stands up. He leaves. He convenes a clan council. By evening, the news spreads throughout the capital. The So house announces its withdrawal from the alliance with the Cho house. The first great house to openly abandon Mu-hyeon. A political earthquake. The edifice Mu-hyeon spent 3 months building collapses in a single day. Mu-hyeon stands at the window and watches as the messenger carries away the So house's reply. His eyes are cloudy. The 28th day of the crown. 2 days left. He forgot the messenger's name, forgot the doctor's name, forgot his room number, and went to his father's room in the morning. He sat down in his chair. He sat there for an hour before remembering that his father was dead, that he had killed his father, that he had killed, whom he had killed. The word slips away. Mu-hyeon presses his temples. The crown throbs on his forehead. It burns. A monk approaches, offers to remove it. Mu-hyeon pushes him away. He wheezes that he won't take it off, that Do-hyun is waiting. He remembers his brother's name. It's a name the crown cannot erase, like a nail in his skull. Do-hyun, Do-hyeon, Do-hyeon, the 90th night, the great imperial tournament, once every 10 years, all the great houses, the emperor himself in the stands, 30,000 spectators on the steps of the main arena in the capital, Chongryong. That very square, that very execution block has been removed, and in its place stands a stone ring the size of 5 houses. The flags of the 4 great houses at the corners. Drums since dawn. Gongs every 10 minutes. Aristocrats in ceremonial robes. About 100 people in the upper tiers. 3 copper coins per seat. Mu-hyeon stands at the entrance to the arena. The 30th day of the crown. The last. Tomorrow the crown will devour the remnants of his mind, and what remains of Choi Do-hyeon will not be human. He knows this. He feels his thoughts blurring at the edges, names slipping through his fingers. He remembers 5 things: his name, his brother's name, that he killed his father, that he must win, and that the tournament is the last chance to secure the Choi family's power. Everything else is a blur. The monks of the Sleepless Eye stand behind him, 10 out of 20. The other 10 are scattered across the arena. Lee Han didn't come. He sent a note. 1 word: I watch. Mu-hyeon enters the arena. Sky 9, just yesterday. Today, the crown has lost half a step. Sky 8.5. 37,000 Honryuk instead of 42. But that's enough. Enough for the tournament. First opponent. A student from the Lee House. Earth 7. Mu-hyeon strikes once. The student is down. Second. Sky 2. 2 strikes. Third. Sky 5. 3 strikes and a takedown. Mu-hyeon moves like a machine. No finesse. No form. Pure power directed by a clouded mind that remembers only one thing: to strike. The final. The Lee House champion. Sky 8. 35,000 Honryuk. The fight lasts 4 minutes. Mu-hyeon wins. The split sky technique. The Choi House's signature move. The Lee House champion falls outside the ring. Mu-hyeon stands in the center of the arena. He raises the cup. 30,000 spectators roar. The emperor in the stands nods. Mu-hyeon doesn't see the nod. His eyes are too cloudy, but he hears the roar. The roar is good. The roar means he has won. The roar means the Choi House still stands. And then the roar dies down, not gradually, all at once, as if 30,000 throats had snapped shut simultaneously. Mu-hyeon lowers the cup. He looks at the stands. 30,000 people sit with their eyes open. They don't move. They don't seem to breathe. Frozen, like dolls. Mu-hyeon turns to the judges. Frozen. To the monks behind him. Frozen. 10 monks of the Sleepless Eye stand motionless, with needles in their hands. Eyes open, bodies in place. But they are not there. 30,010 people have simultaneously fallen asleep. Sleeping standing up, sleeping sitting down, sleeping with their eyes open. Because this is no ordinary sleep. This is a reversal of the layers. For the first time in Mondae's history, someone has pulled Mondae outward. It is not people who have entered the dream. The dream has entered the people. Do-hyeon, 127,000 Shadows, Reality Devourer 3. Over the past 2 days, it has devoured another 33,000. 2 nights of non-stop hunting for the aristocrats of the 5 provinces. The Reality Devourer's radius spans the entire continent. Everyone who has heard the name Choi Do-hyeon is within reach. And everyone has heard that name. 127,000 shadows and a technique that has no name. The Mondae summoning. 20 minutes of real time. That's all he can hold. Any longer won't be enough. But 20 minutes is enough. 30,000 10 people stand in Chongnyeon Square and simultaneously stand in Mondae. They see a gray mist, gray streets, gray streetlights, the city of a dead man. And they see Choi Do-hyeon rising from the ground in the center of the arena. In the ceremonial robes of the heir to the Cho family, white and gold, the crest on his chest, his face intact, both eyes in place. The right eye that the crows pecked out 90 days ago is looking at the crowd. In Mond, he is whole. 30,000 people see the heir. They see a dead man. They see the one who was executed in this very square 3 months ago. Mu-hyeon stands in the arena, a crown on his forehead. He is the only one who is not asleep. The crown holds him, but he sees. He sees how 30,000 people have frozen. He sees the arena floor shimmering green. He sees a shadow, the outline of a figure on the stone of the ring. He is not in Mondae, but the edge of Mondae touches reality right here, and his brother stands on that edge. Mu-hyeon wheezes. He says that Do-hyeon cannot reach him, that the crown holds him. The outline on the stone does not move. In Mondae, Do-hyeon stands before Mu-hyeon. Mu-hyeon is in the crown, impenetrable. Do-hyeon doesn't reach for him. Do-hyeon turns toward the stands, raises his hand. 30,000 people feel a recording replaying in their memories. The square, 3 months ago, the scaffold, Mu-hyeon with a bowl of porridge, the words he whispered in his ear. I poisoned my father. I slipped him poison. You like how decisive I've become. 30,000 people hear these words, not a retelling, not a rumor, a direct recording from the memory of the dead Do-hyeon. They know. Now everyone knows. Do-hyeon lowers his hand, turns to Mu-hyeon. The outline on the stone stirs. Do-hyeon doesn't speak, doesn't explain, reaches out and removes the crown from his brother's head, not physically. Across the edge of Mondae, through that gap between sleep and reality that the conversion tore open, the crown cracks, splits apart, falls from Mu-hyeon's head in 2 shards onto the stone. Mu-hyeon freezes, his eyes clear for a second, as if the fog had been blown away by the wind. He sees clearly for the first time in 30 days. He sees the arena. He sees 30,000 motionless faces. He sees a green shimmer beneath his feet, and he sees his brother's silhouette on the stone. Then his eyes roll back. Mu-hyeon falls asleep, standing. The crown no longer protects him. His body sinks to his knees. His face relaxes. He is in Myeongda, his first sleep in 30 days. And in this dream, Do-hyeon is waiting for him. Mu-hyeon opens his eyes in Myeongdong. He is kneeling in Chongnyeon Square, in front of the scaffold. 30,000 spectators surround him, the very same ones. They are watching. Do-hyeon stands over him, a knife in his hand. That very kitchen knife, the one used to peel radishes for porridge. Mu-hyeon looks up. His eyes are clear. The crown no longer weighs him down. His mind is not yet fully returned, but he remembers. He remembers everything. His brother's name, his father's name, the poison, the porridge, the chopsticks, the square, the execution. Do-hyeon crouches down. He looks Mu-hyeon in the eyes. He is silent. Then he says that the porridge really was delicious that day. It's a shame he didn't try it. Mu-hyeon doesn't answer. Do-hyeon gets to work. In front of 30,000 spectators, right hand, left hand, up to the elbow, like Beck's, like Im Dong-hae's, symmetry. Then the tongue. Mu-hyeon screams, but after a minute, there's nothing left to scream with. Then the left eye. Do-hyeon leaves the right one, so he can see. 30,000 people watch in silence, not a sound. The counter. Mu-hyeon's hongnyak, Sky 8.5, 37,000. Flowing through the wounds, 30, 20, 10, 0. Do-hyeon takes it all, down to the last unit. Mu-hyeon lies on the arena's stone, without arms, without a tongue, with one eye. Hongryuk 0, Earth 0, empty. Do-hyeon stands up. He looks at 30,000 faces. He says nothing. He leaves. Into the ground, into Mond. 30,000 people wake up at the same time. 20 minutes have passed. Mu-hyeon lies in the arena, bloodied, mutilated, without arms, without a tongue. The crown nearby is split in two. The healer runs up. He applies the Hongryuk plate. Earth 0, 0. The healer drops the plate. Silence. 30,000 people are silent. The emperor rises in the stands. Slowly, he surveys the arena. There is no corpse, but there is something worse than a corpse. The former patriarch of the great house lies as an empty shell before the face of the entire empire. The emperor speaks softly. His voice is heard because 30,000 people are not breathing. He asks, who did this? He knows who. Everyone knows. 30,000 witnesses saw it. He asks one thing. Will anyone explain what this was? The arena empties slowly. 30,000 people leave in silence. No one pushes, no one shouts. They saw something that defies every law of the Hyungmoon Empire. The dead man has returned. He rose from the ground. He executed the executioner of his own execution. The doctors carry Mu-hyeon away on a stretcher. They cover the body with a white cloth, but the cloth is soaked in red within seconds. One of Mu-hyeon's eyes is open. It stares at the sky. He doesn't blink. His mouth is open. His tongue is gone. Hongryuk 0, Earth 0. The former patriarch of the great house. The former Heaven 9. The former murderer of his father. Now a sack of meat on a stretcher. The emperor leaves the podium accompanied by 12 guards. He is silent. His face is impassive. In 30 years of rule, he has never shown emotion in public, and today is no exception. But the guards see that his hands are clasped behind his back so tightly that his knuckles have turned white. Guard Commander Han Ji-won walks beside him. His request for resignation has been denied. He remains at his post. He looks straight ahead. He does not glance back at the arena. If he looks back, he will see a blood stain on the stone and the shattered crown. And then he will have to admit that everything he knew about security and protection is worthless. He does not look back. By evening of that same day, the House of Cho ceases to exist as a political force. The 3 remaining vassal clans announce their severance. Merchants cancel their contracts. Servants leave. The monks of the Sleepless Eye collect 3 months' pay in advance and disappear that very night. The Cho Palace stands empty. Choi Do-hyeon sits in the East Wing. House arrest is lifted because there is no one left to enforce it. The guards have left. The doors are open. She steps out of her room for the first time in 90 days. She walks through the empty corridors. She enters her father's study. She sits in the patriarch's chair. The chair is too big for a 16-year-old girl. She sits and waits. She knows her brother will come at night. Not Mu-hyeon, the other one. The capital is buzzing. The rumors are no longer whispers. They are a scream. On every street corner, at every market, in every tea house, Choi Do-hyeon has returned from the dead. Choi Do-hyeon is innocent. Choi Mu-hyeon is a patricide. 30,000 witnesses. 30,000 mouths. Impossible to silence. Do-hyeon's name is spoken aloud. Not in whispers, aloud. With fear and something else. With respect or with horror. The boundaries between these words blurred somewhere on the 40th night. The great elder So Chong-gil sits in the study of the So household and rereads the report. The So household's losses over 90 days. A faceless daughter. The clan's honor has fallen by 11%. A fragment of the seal has been stolen from the dream safe. The alliance with the Choi house has been severed, which means the trade routes through the southern provinces have also been severed. So Chong-gil sets the report aside. He stands up. He walks to the window. He looks out at the city. Somewhere out there, in an invisible layer of existence, stands a dead man who, in 3 months, has done more to the Hyungmun aristocracy than all the wars of the past 100 years. So Chong-gil doesn't know how it works. He doesn't know about Mondae. He doesn't know about the shadows and the seals. But he knows the result. The result stands before him in numbers. Falling numbers. Imperial physician Yoon Sang-hee stands before the emperor. The third report in 90 days. This time, she isn't talking about Hongryok's losses. She's talking about something else. She says that 30,000 people simultaneously lost consciousness for 20 minutes, and not a single one was harmed. She says this isn't an attack, it's a demonstration. Whoever did this could have killed them all, could have wiped out the Hongryok of every single one of those 30,000, but didn't, chose one, punished one. He revealed the truth and left. Yoon Sang-hee says this changes everything, that they are not dealing with a curse or a disease. They are dealing with someone who controls what they cannot see, controls sleep. The emperor listens. He is silent. Then he asks a question. He asks if it can be repeated. Yoon Sang-hee says she doesn't. The emperor nods. He says they need to find out. Yoon Sang-hee bows and leaves. A man is waiting for her in the corridor. A gray hanbok, calm eyes, a mole under his left eye. Prince Lee Han. He wasn't in the arena. He watched from the palace window. He saw everything. Now he stands in the hallway and smiles. He tells Yoon Sang-hee that he has answers to her questions, that he can help. Yoon Sang-hee looks at the prince. She doesn't trust him, but she has no choice. She nods. They leave together. Night. Do-hyeon stands in Myeongdong. The territory is not a city. The territory is a province. Gray plains stretch to the horizon. Gray mountains to the north. A gray river. A gray forest. A whole world. His world. 127,000 shadows. Reality Devourer 3. 2 fragments of the seal in his chest. Hyuk stands at the city gates and stares into the fog. The nameless monk meditates in his room. Yeonhwa sits on the roof, dangling her legs. Do-hwa will fall asleep in an hour. Everything is going according to plan. 7 names. All 7 are marked. Mu-hyeon is broken. The Choi house is empty. Do-hyeon's name has been restored in the memories of 30,000 witnesses. The arch is closed. But Do-hyeon does not feel a sense of completion. He stands at the edge of the territory and looks down, into the depths of Mondae, to where, 100 years ago, Yeonhwa saw the walls behind which something is locked away. Something that moved quietly, but after the absorption of the second fragment of the seal, moves loudly. Yeonhwa jumps down from the roof, approaches, stands nearby, remains silent, then says that the walls are creaking, that they have been creaking ever since Do-hyeon absorbed the second fragment, that each fragment weakens the seal because the seal is made up of the fragments, 7 pieces that held the cage. Do-hyeon took 2, 5 remain. The cage still stands, but it's already wobbling. Do-hyeon asks what's behind the cage. Yeonhwa is silent for a long time. Then she speaks. The former god of sleep, the one the first emperor sealed 300 years ago. A woman, an entity, something in between. She was here before the empire, before the aristocracy, before the Hongryok system. She was all of Mondae. Then a commoner came with the first shard of the seal and took the throne from her. He became emperor. He locked her away. He built a world where power is measured by blood, not dreams. Mondae became a prison, and she became a prisoner. Do-hyeon listens. Then he asks if she is stronger than him. Yeonhwa says that when she was free, her rank wasn't measured by the 10. The 10 is a system created by the first emperor for those who came after. The former god of dreams existed before the system. She is Mondae. How can you measure the power of water with a ruler meant for stone? Do-hyeon nods. Yeonhwa says one more thing. She says that Do-hyeon isn't the first to find the fragments. 300 years ago, several people tried. They all died. Because with every fragment absorbed, the seal weakens. And when the fourth fragment is absorbed, she will awaken completely, and the fifth will set her free. Do-hyeon stands at the edge. He looks into the depths. Far below, something glimmers, green, like his shards, but a different shade, darker, older. He feels a gaze. She is looking at him, through the walls, through the 5 remaining fragments. She watches and waits. Do-hyeon turns away. He walks deeper into the territory. He has 6 fragments ahead of him, 5 in the treasuries, and one that Prince Lee-han swallowed 3 hours ago. Prince Lee-han's chambers, 1. Silence. Black silk on the walls. 4 protective circles around the bed. The prince stands before a mirror, an empty box in his hand, the aftertaste of stone on his tongue. He swallowed the fragment. The second fragment from the Lee clan, the one his family had kept for 300 years, swallowed an hour ago, while 30,000 people slept in the arena, while Do-hyeon was breaking Mu-hyeon, while the whole city was looking one way, Prince Lee-han was looking the other. He opens his mouth, checks his teeth. Everything is in place. The stone has dissolved, gone inside. The prince feels it, warm, pulsating, somewhere around his solar plexus. Not like Do-hyeon's, not through death, through choice. A living person who has swallowed a fragment of the seal receives something else. Not an entrance to Monday, an invitation. From the shadows behind the mirror, she rises. Tall, a female figure. Her face is covered with something silvery. Moon moss. It grows on the stones of Monday. She looks at the prince through the moss. Not with her eyes, with her whole face. She says she thought he would never mature. That she waited a long time. That the boy has finally made up his mind. The prince does not flinch. He does not back away. He had been preparing for this for 32 years. Ever since his father told him what the Lee clan kept. Ever since he took the helm of the Black Lotus and read the archives of the First Dynasty, he knew there was someone behind the seal, knew that this someone was waiting, and knew that one day he would have to choose an alliance with the cage or an alliance with what's inside the cage. Mu-hyeon was a tool. The conspiracy against Do-hyeon was a tool. Everything was a tool. To awaken the new master of the fragment, to force him to break the seal fragment by fragment. And while he breaks it, while everyone watches the dead man who seeks revenge, Prince Lee-han quietly opens the cage door from the other side. The prince turns toward the mirror. He looks at his reflection. The reflection smiles. He smiles. He speaks into the empty room. Now there are 2 of us in this game, Choi Do-hyeon. Let's see whose dreams run deeper. The figure behind him dissolves into the shadows. The moon moss flickers and fades. The prince stands alone before the mirror. Sun 2. A fragment of the seal in the solar plexus. 32 years of preparation. 300 Black Lotus agents. Knowledge accumulated over 300 years. And an entity older than the empire. Against a dead man with a radish knife. In Mondae Do-hyeon, he stops mid-step, turns his head, feels. Somewhere deep inside, something has changed. The vibration has changed. Not louder, not quieter, closer. As if the wall between him and what lies beyond has grown thinner. Not because of his actions, because of someone else's. Someone on the other side is unlocking the seals too. Do-hyeon stands in his gray city. 2 fragments of the seal in his chest. 127,000 shadows. Rank, Reality Devourer 3. 7 names crossed out. Mu-hyeon is broken. The name is restored. The sister is free. The executioner has become a sword. The monk has become a prisoner. The girl has become a conduit. Everything he planned has been accomplished, and it's only just beginning. Because behind the wall, someone is waking up, someone who cannot be broken by a knife. And because Prince Lee Han has chosen a side, not the side of the empire, not the side of Do-hyeon, the side of the cage. Do-hyeon looks into the depths of Mondae. Far below, a green light flickers, dark, old, hungry. He feels her gaze, she feels his. 2 masters of one throne, one dead, one locked away, and between them, the prince with the key. Do-hyeon turns away. He walks toward the city center. He must prepare. The night of the 91st will be the first night of a new war.